Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the August 20th Village Council meeting. Stephanie, would you call the roll?
Mayor Don Horton.
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Here.
Councilmember Steve Friedman.
Here.
Councilmember Deb Gillis.
Here.
Councilmember Anna Richards.
Here.
Very good. Let's see. Steve, will you lead us in the pledge tonight? Thank you so much. Let's see, Council, do we have any requests for deletions or emergency additions?
Not for me.
Vice Mayor?
I'd like for everyone to keep the Stanzik family in your thoughts and your prayers for Ricky Stanzik. So I would like to ask if everybody wishes well for him. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Deb? Miss Anna? Okay, very good. Let's see, why don't, then, I'm sorry, John, do you have anything?
Nope, nothing from legal.
Okay. Ron, do you?
Just real quickly, last week, Mayor Horton, Councilperson Deb Gillis and I attended the Florida League of Cities meeting in Hollywood. A lot of committee meetings. We were on the advocacy committee for the state. Learned a lot about Amendment 3, for example. A lot of information out for that. So I thought it was a productive 3 or 4 days, and we appreciate the 2 of our council people attending. And we made a lot of good contacts, not only with other elected officials, but also with some vendors. And we'll be working with some of them too. So it was a good overall meeting.
So I got on 2 additional committees as well. I'm on the advocacy committee, but I got on the policy committee and I also got on the federal task force committee. So, and actually have completed my gold certificate with them. So I've completed all my education that I got for them. So thank you to the taxpayers and the voters and all that helped me get to that level. It's a good thing to do for this city to stay in touch with all of the other community leaders and those folks that make decisions throughout the state. I think one other thing that I have, we'll move on to reports and presentations, and the only presentation that I have is I do want to do our August birthdays. So let's see, we've got Carlos Diaz, we've got Angel Calabres, we've got Jane Gillette, Daniel Ginther, Gilbert Rosebriar, Marnie McGrath, as hopefully she's spending time away enjoying her birthday. And Terry showed up, so happy birthday, Terry Abel. And we've got James Ruggles and Michael Venezia, one of our firefighter EMTs. So happy birthday to all of those employees of the village. Can't do it without them. And then with that, AJ, you want to move on to a Raftellus report for wastewater? Yes.
Before we proceed, I wanted to, we have some on consent. We wanted to pull off consent and also take off the agenda. That's tab 5, the Village Personnel Policy Manual. We need more time to work on it, so we want to not only have it off consent, but just take it off the agenda entirely.
So we're removing tab 5 off of the consent. All right.
Well, off the agenda completely.
Okay, off the agenda completely. Very good. Thank you. All right, AJ, it's your show.
All right, Raftellus is online with us in Zoom, and they'll be presenting the wastewater rate study that we've just done. So
Very
they should
good.
be
We've been a
pulling
long
them up
time
and
waiting on
bringing
this.
them
I know that they had to do several different things to be able to get to this point, so
Correct.
glad to have them on board. I think the last thing they had to do was camera or testing the piping so that they knew what was going on with that to be able to complete the report correctly, right?
Correct, yeah. We had a couple projects. The NPK booster station, we wanted to get hard numbers on that. So after the bid, we waited for that. We also had Key Largo's project with their EQ basin and their headworks. So to make sure we had better numbers on that. And then the pipe replacement that you were talking about.
It's good to have it complete before it comes to us. Thank you, AJ.
Correct. Thank you.
Who's speaking to us from Raftellus?
Good evening. This is Trevor McCarthy. Thanks everybody for your time today. I'm going to share my screen and pull up our presentation. If you bear with me one moment. Okay, I hope everybody can see that okay.
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, well, appreciate it. Yeah, good evening, Mayor, council members. We appreciate your time this evening to share the update of our rate study. I'm joined on the call with Tristan Townsend. She was our lead analyst on the project. Reftelis has a fairly lengthy history with the village. Y'all may remember Tony Hairston. I think he's been working with the village since, I think, 2010 or 2012, really since the inception of the utility, and we help with billing systems and things like that as well. So we're grateful for the opportunity to continue to support you. And with that, I'm going to take you through the results of our wastewater rate study, and I'm going to start with a little bit of background. So the last rate increase implemented by the village was in 2021. Reftelis did perform a rate study with the village in 2022. However, no changes to the rates were implemented. I will say that the rate recommendations at the time were what I would consider minor. There were only 1% per year, which were identified. And at the time, I believe you were considering a refunding of certain loan obligations that ended up not taking place. But nonetheless, nothing was implemented coming out of that study. Since that time, the utilities has experienced fairly significant increases in operating costs, as well as increases in the capital improvement plan. And this is something that we're seeing all across the state. This is driven by inflation that persisted for a longer period of time than anyone would have thought back in 2022. Of course, a lot of this started with COVID-19 and just the ramifications from that, supply chain issues, inflation, and that inflation just continued longer at a rate higher than anticipated at the time. So in considering where we are today, with the higher cost and the pressure on the utility rates, we are going into this with several objectives. One, of course, being to set revenues and to set rates at a pace that can keep pace with inflation, but also catch up with the inflation that's happened over the last several years. Right now, we think for the current fiscal year, 2026, from a revenue sufficiency standpoint, we think that the fund is about 5% deficient. So that's what I mean by catching up with that prior inflation, and that'll be evident when I get to our next slide. We also want to maintain adequate cash reserves, which we'll talk about more later, and additionally maintain compliance with the existing and proposed loan obligations, specifically the debt service coverage requirements. So I'll start with operating expenses. This chart shows our prior studies projection, which were based on your 23 budget at the time and projected out into the future compared to what we're projecting today. So the dark blue line is our current projection and the light blue line is the prior projection. As you can see here, the operating expenses are significantly more than we projected. And to put a number to that, you can see it's on average $950,000 more per year, or 24%. My colleague recently did, who's working on the west coast of Florida with several counties, recently did an analysis where for a survey group of several west coast of Florida counties, he saw those budgets increasing about 10% since 2022. So again, not something that's unique to Islamorada. We've all been experiencing these cost increases, and utilities have not escaped that inflation. And the second driver of our rate recommendations is the capital improvement plan. Staff has identified approximately $38.4 million in capital projects. This includes a significant force main project at $7.5 million, vacuum pump station upgrades, the booster station. These are fairly significant costly projects. But the good news is that the village has identified or secured, I should say, about $17.5 million in grants over this 5-year period that we're looking at. So that's almost 45% of the capital improvement plan identified. So that's very helpful. The remaining needs to be funded from another funding source. And working with staff, we've assumed that the remaining costs or the remaining funding requirements on the capital side are going to be funded with debt. And I'll talk a little bit about those debt assumptions here. In 2025, the village secured a short-term line of credit. So this line of credit, it's not a permanent financing solution. It's not a long-term loan. It is just what we call bridge financing. And we've assumed that the utility would draw on that loan starting likely in fiscal year 2027, and then that would be paid back through the issuance of a bank loan. And you can see our assumptions here. We've assumed a 10-year bank loan at about a 4.25% interest rate, and assuming that these debt service payments of about $450,000 per year would begin in fiscal year 2028. The remaining cost of about $17.3 million we've assumed would be funded through the state revolving fund loan, which is an FDEP program. It offers very low interest rate loans and generally favorable structure. And one of those being that you can defer payments through the construction period. So that's very beneficial combined with the low interest rates. And so therefore we've assumed payments beginning in fiscal year 2031. So putting those funding requirements together that we just talked about, the operating expenses and the debt service requirements, those funding requirements are represented here by the bars, dark line being operating expenses, the light colored bar being the debt service, and the two lines running horizontally across the page are the existing rate revenues plus your assessment revenue, and then the proposed rate and assessment revenue. And you can see that red line, those bars are exceeding that red line, your rate revenue today, indicating a deficiency. And so the plan that we've come up with is a 6% annual rate adjustment to phase rate revenues into a point where they can fully cover those projected debt service requirements and meet all your coverage requirements at that point in time, as well as maintain a strong cash position for working capital and other needs that may come up. And noting on the cash balances, this is a projection of ending cash balances. Working with staff, we've come up with what we believe a good minimum operating and capital reserve target is, and that's 120 days of operating and maintenance expenses, as well as 2% of depreciable fixed assets. Said another way, it's 2% of your prior investment in infrastructure in the wastewater system. And these are targets that we commonly use in the industry, so I would consider it industry best practice to have reserves, and we think the cash reserves put you in a strong financial outlook, as well as giving you flexibility to react to either one-time cost increases and phase in rates in the future as needed, or pay for unforeseen expenditures that are not captured here in this plan. And so based on those proposed 6% adjustments, we've calculated the bill here for the average residential customer in both of your service areas, RSA and the NPK service areas. For RSA, 6% annual increase on a 4,000 gallon bill would be an average monthly increase through this 5-year period of about $5.20. And for NPK, that average monthly increase would be about $4.50. We've also prepared a rate comparison to compare you to some neighboring utilities. So these are the proposed fiscal year 2027 rates for both your service areas here in the dark blue compared to what is currently in effect at these other utilities. We do know that Key Largo has adopted about a 6.2% increase for 2027. Marathon's adopted about a 7% increase for 2027, and FKAA has a annual index that they pass through, and this year that is 3.4%, but they're also considering an additional 5% on top of that. I just don't believe it's been adopted yet at this time. So, your neighboring utilities have very similar rate increases going on, and, speaking from working with a significant amount of clients, particularly on the southwest coast of Florida, these rate increases are not out of the norm given the inflation, particularly in capital costs that we continue to see. And so, in conclusion, and our recommendations, the existing rates are not sufficient to fund the operating and capital needs currently of the system. And we would recommend the Village Council consider adopting this 5-year plan with the first increase being effective October 1, 2026. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions that you may have of Rev. Tellus at this moment? No? Deb?
Yes, this is Deb Gillis. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing well.
On the projected using the bank loan versus the RSF, I think it's on screen 6. I'm not sure I've got the right page number, but
Yes.
can you explain why we wouldn't use all RSF because of the difference in the rates? 4.7 for a bank loan is great, but when you can get 2.3, why wouldn't you try to push all of it to there?
Yeah, that's a great question, Councilmember. So let me just speak to the rates, the interest rates here. These are estimates. We think they're conservative estimates. So I do want to just mention that these aren't kind of guaranteed rates or anything like that. So with the if you draw on the line of credit, our understanding, or at least my understanding, is that SRF is not necessarily going to let you pay back what you've already drawn on that loan. Typically with SRF, there's a process to get approved for the loan. They approve the specific project, and then the village would actually have to expend the money, and then you would submit a reimbursement to SRF, and they would give you that money. And then that would that would go towards your total approved loan balance. So that's why we've assumed that bank loan, if it turns out that the village can get approved for an SRF loan sooner and never has to draw on that bank loan, or has another funding source that they can repay that bank loan with, grants, for example, then the bank loan may never come to fruition. But because just the way that SRF works, that's why we've assumed that. Yeah.
So the bank loan is basically a stopgap, and then the SRF would then pay that back. Is that right?
So no. So we've actually got 3 different loan instruments here. There's a line of credit, a short-term line of credit, that the city can draw on
Okay,
right now. And they would only pay interest payments on those draws. But at some point, you have to pay that back. It's not a permanent financing solution. So, and we're assuming that you would make draws on that line of credit and then repay that line of credit with a bank loan sometime in 2028. And so the bank loan repays the line of credit, and then at some point you issue, what we're assuming beginning in 2028, you start the process of applying for a SRF loan, and then there's an additional $17 million from the SRF loan. So these two loans would continue, the 2028 loan for 10 years, the SRF loan for 20 years. Again, if you
So-
never need to borrow on the line of credit and you can get approved sooner for an SRF loan, then maybe the bank loan never comes to fruition.
So the way it's proposed right now is that the line of credit would go back to the 20 million, and we'd create another bank loan for whatever that we end up drawing on this paper. You're looking at 3.5 million as an estimate. Am I understanding that correct?
Yeah, the $3.5 million is an estimate. Again,
But-
if
Okay, I don't think I explained myself right. Sorry. Let me try again. So we'd take the money from the line of credit, which is a $20 million line of credit currently, and then convert that to a bank loan later for 3.5, but that bank loan would pay back the line of credit, so it goes back to 20 million?
Yeah, so if you have, and maybe the 20 million is the maximum you can draw on the line of
Yes,
credit.
it is.
Is that what I'm understanding?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So if you refunded, if you drew the 3.5 million from the line of credit and then repaid it, yes, you could keep that. I assume that you could keep that line of credit open and draw on it again in the future. I'm not sure exactly the terms of it, but yes, that would be the case. I think you'd still have that line of credit open to draw on in the future.
Okay, on that line of credit, I was under the assumption when we approved that a year ago, is that a year ago, 2 years ago?
It was a year ago.
That it was for hurricane issues, I'll put it.
Emergency fund.
Emergency fund, not related to the wastewater. Now, I understand that the money's got to come from somewhere, but I don't know, somehow it just seems like we should be able to get into the SRF quicker, and drawing on the line of credit, it just, I don't know, I don't like loans, period. But we have to get the money from somewhere.
Yeah, I think whether you go not knowing the reason why the line of credit was issued, I think, you could go straight to the bank loan, you could go straight to SRF. It's just the SRF loan process does take some paperwork. You have to get approved. You have to get on the project approval list. So it's a little bit administratively, there's some administrative burden there. But I think, in discussing with staff, we felt like this was a reasonable plan, knowing that the exact funding, how this is exactly funded over the next 3 to 5 years may change a little bit. So you could go straight to bank loan, you could go straight to SRF. It really just depends on the timing.
So I've been around long enough that I remember some of the first SRFs, and they were on new invoicing only, if I remember right, and then we finally got approval to be able to use some of our stewardship money to help pay the SRF money. That's the reason I don't know why we wouldn't push quicker or as quick as possible to get into the SRF, because it only allows for new invoicing. So if we're already into it for that $4 million, 3.5, whatever that turns out to be, we can't use that SRF for that unless we get another agreement with the stewardship money. Am I understanding that right?
So I agree that yes, you can't, if you start spending now before you're approved for an SRF loan, that you cannot use SRF proceeds to reimburse yourself or reimburse another loan. So yeah, I would agree with that. And I don't believe that any draws have been made to date on the line of credit. So this
I don't
is
believe so
forward
either.
looking. So again, you may not need to draw on the line of credit. One thing that I will say here is we've got the capital improvement plan, and we assume that we've recognized everything on what we refer to as an appropriations basis, that when the project is, whatever projects are in a given year, we're assuming 100% of those projects are spent in that year. And we know that that doesn't always happen. So I say that to, again, reiterate that you may not need to draw on the line of credit, and therefore you may not need to issue a bank loan. It's just that to make this whole plan work in a what we think is a conservative and reasonable estimate of these financing assumptions, this is what we've assumed. So if you don't spend 100% on some of the other projects, or if you secure more grant funding, then again, you may not have to draw on the line of credit, and you may be able to go straight to an SRF loan.
Yeah, I understand that these are just taking the information we have now, and it could come in less, it could also come in more. And I appreciate the study that you put together, so don't take any of this as criticism of how you did it or what you came up with. I am really surprised you came up with a 6% recommendation.
Yeah.
I'm pleased with that. Can the expected expenses over the next 5 years, it looks like kind of a steady increase. Is that just operational expenses, or was that including the projects that we'll need to be doing?
So if you're referring to this chart here, this is just operating and maintenance expenses.
It's just operation.
Labor cost, all of just the day-to-day operational expenses. This does not include the capital cost.
Okay.
And we are assuming about a 3.5% annual inflation rate on the operating expenses here, just to make sure we have an allowance for future inflation.
All right, thank you. I'll let somebody else speak. Thank you.
Steve?
Thank you.
I saw you leaning in. You have something? Yep.
I guess I'm just wondering if, he's saying he's making some assumptions on how we're going to finance this and using the line of credit. I agree with Deb that I don't necessarily want to have to tap into that. Why wouldn't you assume other avenues than that if there's a timeline crunch in order for us to go through and get that paperwork? That's what I see kind of missing here. If we have a time crunch, then we should have been kind of starting and looking at these other avenues a while back, even before we had the final numbers.
Yeah. Also, I was kind of wondering why we just start off with taking out using our line of credit and then going out and getting a bank loan. And then was the assumption also included the interest that we're going to be paying on both of those bank loans, the line of credit and then have to get out another loan to pay off that line of credit? Was the interest in those two loans factored into your calculations?
Yes, it was.
And then, with that calculation, then why do we wait to 2028 to start seeking our SRF loans, and why don't we start seeking those tomorrow?
again, there's nothing stopping you from seeking them tomorrow. It just does take time. So when we're looking at the capital projects and we've got, several $1 million in capital projects slated for 2027, we're taking into account that you may not be able to secure a line of credit or excuse me, an SRF loan, October 1st, 2026. So we did allow for some time to secure that SRF loan.
Ron?
And speaking with financial advisors that have dealt with SRF loans, the complicating factor was that SRF loans have certain restrictions. For example, you'd have to buy, in their words, American, which drives up the cost. And so for these first projects, for example, the MPK, that doesn't have those restrictions, so it's cheaper. Had we tried to qualify for the SRF for everything, it would have driven up the costs because there are people that had been structured differently. So my understanding was the line of credit is used as a gap finance until we get, if we needed to get a bank loan. But if we wanted to get the SRF right away, we wouldn't have qualified for what we've already done for the RFP, or we would have had to open up the RFP to make it more expensive. In other words, we'd have more restrictions and the bids would have been higher. We tried to have this first project, the MBK booster pump, as economic as possible, but that wasn't, we weren't able to do it with an SRF loan. So that was what I was informed as far as the reasoning for having the gap financing, was because we didn't want to drive up the cost of the initial project.
But it was my understanding that this work that's going to be happening at MPK is already been paid for out of, or promised out of, existing grants that we have.
Yeah, we've allocated stewardship money, I think, stewardship money and AFQIP money.
Yeah.
And so we may not have to, this is, I think, taking into consideration any contingencies, but if we can fund it all from existing grants, we're going to do that. We just don't know at this point. And we have later on the agenda an approval for stewardship going forward, but we don't have that yet. So we have to assume we don't get that until we have the approval for the stewardship money for the next 5 years. We're going to build that in, but we didn't have that available for this study. So we may not need the bank loan, but we want to make sure if we need it, we would have the authority to do it.
Deb?
So the MKP project may not qualify for SRF. How many of the other projects are far enough along that they wouldn't qualify, or potentially couldn't qualify?
The only one I'm aware of is the MPK one.
Does that include that's just the pumping station? It's not the piping that
Right.
we need to do?
That's not the piping
It's not the
repair, the
piping?
digging up the old pipe. that we're
The
having
only one
problems.
we had the RFP for is the one, that we just issued, and that you went with.
I thought we just did an RFP
with
for
the-
the
with the
pipe and
rentals.
stuff too. We didn't?
I don't believe so.
We did a,
It was just the
Yeah.
booster pump with what you approved for Reynolds construction.
Okay.
Okay.
While we're on this, and the dollars we're spending on that, we had, while we were going through our budget reviews, we have $2 million that's supposed to go to Key Largo for the upgrades that they have to do because of the work that we're doing. How about we have a discussion with Key Largo, since they have $26 million in the bank, and they're going to raise their fees, that we pay them $1 million now, and then we pay them another $1 million next year, and we allocate the $1 million that we're not paying them to go for these pipe repairs and help us on this work on MPK.
They're open to working with us. I spoke with their general manager today, Mr. Rosasco, and he's aware of this meeting, and he said they're open to working with us on things like that.
I think it's a reasonable request, and it puts another $1 million back into our account that we can use on the repairs that we need to do, and maybe stop us from having to pull out this other money out of the line of credit. And I don't think that they're starving for the dollars up there if they've got $26 million in the bank. And I think that they ought to work with us on this. I'm hoping that they will work. I think they will. I think it's something we should propose.
I think it's something we should at least
Yeah,
investigate
for sure. Yeah.
and push. Yeah.
Right.
I really don't want to break into that line of credit.
Right. Anything else? Any other questions? So, Ron, I guess my question, you know what? This is an important enough item. I'd really like to have some public input on this before we move forward. I know
agree.
it's not standard during reports and presentation, but I think it's only fair that folks that might be in here that want to ask something about this, because we're going to make a decision on raising our rates, and I think it's a fair thing to do. So, Stephanie, I imagine nobody signed up for this, so if you don't care, I'm just going to do a raise of hand, and we can do it that way.
The floor is yours, Mayor.
Good deal. So is there anybody who would like to come up and talk about this presentation and the wastewater potential increase that, Joe, come on up. Joe Wishmeyer, just announce yourself so that Stephanie doesn't have to.
Yes, Joe Wishmeyer, Plantation Key.
Thank you.
This was also going to be part of my public comment, but I think the main thing that we're talking about here too, that I've been pushing for years, is redoing and checking our EDU count. We know that the wastewater is supposed to be self-sufficient and hasn't been. One of the ways to try to maybe catch up to that, we've got a lot of these real big McMansion homes, vacation rentals that 8, 10, 12 people are in that are paying one EDU the same as my little house. And I don't think that's right, and it seems to me that it would be very easy to figure out. All you do is go to the Aqueduct Authority. We know that we've set a limit of 157 gallons per day per EDU, so all we got to do is compare the bills. Those that are using a lot more, they need to be charged more EDU. That money can go back into the wastewater to help offset all these costs that we're going to incur.
That's a good point, Joe, but I don't think that all of the, not all of the water usage goes down the toilet and goes to Key Largo. You know, so and there's not everybody that has an irrigation meter to offset that. So that's not a totally, I don't think, accurate way to do that, because those that don't have an irrigation meter, that are washing their boat every afternoon when they come home, are using the same water that getting flushed and going to Key Largo. So there's got to be I understand what you're saying, but there seems to be another logical way to do that.
Well, there's also a way too that a lot of the businesses that we have now started out at little storefronts and have become huge. So a lot of those, we haven't redone the EDU counts. You've heard me up here talking for years. We need to go and redo the EDU counts and at least check on them to find out. And I think that would be a good way to help offset some of the costs for wastewater.
Thank you, Joe. So that's a question for our Raftellus folks. Did y'all go and check, redo and verify the number of accounts in the EDU and the projected flows when you went through this study?
So we did a number of things. We didn't necessarily recalculate every customer's EDU, but we did look at customers' metered water usage compared to what their capacity reservation is, which is represented by by how many EDUs that customer is. And so what we found is that 80% of customers' average monthly use is no more than 20% of their capacity allocation. So said another way, 80% are within no more than 20% of what they've reserved, that EDU that they're assigned. However, there is 10% of customers that average monthly use exceeds 70% of their capacity. Now, that being said, on that 10% of customers, you're exactly right in mentioning that not all of that water usage is returned to the wastewater system. And there's no way to know unless you go do some groundwork, I'll call it, on whether or not those customers are actually returning the wastewater to the system. It could be outdoor use. So we did do an analysis, and we can send I think we did provide a workbook to city staff, but we can send that again, that has that analysis on it. And if the village chooses to investigate those accounts, then you'll have some data to begin that. And just one other thing, or actually two more points. Your level of service for one EDU is 157 gallons per day. Based on the treated flows, what gets returned to the system is about 90 gallons per day per EDU, which it's not uncommon for a wastewater system, because all wastewater utilities, generally speaking, are billed based on metered water use. It's not cost effective to have two different meters and try to meter wastewater. And
Oh, I'm sorry.
and yeah, I think with that, that's kind of the analysis that we did, and we can provide that workbook again, if those accounts, if you'd like to investigate those accounts.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Deb.
I think staff has told us in the past that any new projects gets evaluated for sewer work, and if they're meeting what this is. But that initial ADU count, whether you were residential or commercial, was based on the infrastructure that we were putting in the ground. So if somebody has 15 bedrooms and flushing lots of bathrooms, or they have one bedroom and flushing one bathroom, the infrastructure was still the same for the most part, but that was taken into consideration when they assigned EDUs. It was for the infrastructure. Now, that person that's using more water for whatever reason, they pay for the water usage through the other column. There's 4 columns on your bill. One of them is that infrastructure basic. The other one is the water usage. So if you're using a whole lot more water in your home, even though if it's a 15-bedroom house versus a 1-bedroom, you pay for that water. The other figure is basically the infrastructure, if I understand all of this right. The infrastructure was the same. It's just you're paying for the water, though.
Yeah, right.
Is that right?
Yes, that is right.
Yeah.
That's right. Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question or speak while we're on this topic? All right, good deal. That, we're going to close this public comment anyway. So I think what we're looking for is to make a recommendation to adopt this rate increase. John, are we doing that now, or should we do that during something that's advertised and do it at the next council meeting?
We would need to do it
Yeah.
for something that's
Okay.
advertised, yeah.
So I think we need to do a little bit more studying on that.
And also, in terms of the line of credit discussion that was going on, that if there is a desire to pull from that, I mean, I know I've heard from, we've heard from some of you about concern about that, but I do want to, I looked back at the resolution authorizing that line of credit, and to draw on it would be, the village would require approval from the village council. So I do think that a vote of the village council will be required to draw on for any draw on that line of credit as well.
As I recall, when we had that discussion, it was for emergency purposes. It wasn't as a stopgap to get us past a SRF loan or something.
Yeah, it was in
or a real
connection with
loan.
the reduction of the reserves
Right,
for budgetary
okay.
purposes, yeah.
AJ?
Yeah, what we're looking for tonight is just more direction. A resolution will be brought back at the next council meeting in September for adoption.
Okay.
So tonight, we're just looking for direction as far as moving forward with the proposed 6%, and that will be brought back to you guys.
Well, is the Raftellus report finalized?
Yes.
Then I think it needs to be made public and handed out to the public.
Okay.
And I think that, Ron, we need to get that thing on on our website and make it available for folks to look at and study. Because if it's coming back at another council meeting, then folks need to have a chance to look at that.
Understood.
But is there a consensus to go on and move forward that way? Yeah, Deb, Steve, okay, Anna?
Yeah,
Vice Mayor?
I would recommend at this point that we move with
Okay.
the 6%, work
You
towards that.
you
goal.
definitely have a consensus up there.
Thank you. We'll bring it back.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, we've got a presentation now on Sea Oats Beach Coastal Resilience Pilot Project. Hello. You throwing rocks at us? It's happened before.
Oh, no,
Happens
no,
all
we
the
won't, we
time.
won't, we won't do that. We're gonna shift gears to something completely different from wastewater. We're gonna talk about coastal protection here. Mayor, council members, staff, thank you all for your time. My name is Robert Weaver. I'm with Reef Starter. We design reef-style breakwaters. These structures protect coastal property, stabilize shorelines, and create habitat in sensitive marine environments. We have a presentation here. I'd like to introduce my colleagues. So again, I'm Robert, I'm the CTO. I have here Bridget, she's CEO, Peter, COO, Austin and Jacob, they're our staff engineers, and Cindy, who some of you all may know is an advisor to our company. Yeah. So there we go. So the first thing I want to kind of start off with is, why are we here before you all? We're here because we know Sea Oats Beach is a critically degraded beach area, and we have what we think is a solution for that beach. And we really want to be requesting from you all, the Village Council, to consider joining us on a joint coastal permit. So we want to submit a permit to construct a hybrid reef-style breakwater right there off of Sea Oats Beach. And the potential benefits of such a structure, well, it will complement an ongoing restoration effort that the Village of Islamorada has going on right now. It'll create a new reef habitat offshore. It also provides storm protection for the beach and for US 1, and provide new recreational opportunities both for fishing and snorkeling. I'd also like to make sure at the very beginning that we're not requesting funding here, we're requesting a partnership. And if we're able to move forward, our organization will manage all the permit requirements and secure all the funding. And we have been working and talking with Peter and Alyssa in your staff, and so we would, if we reach that point, we would just continue with them to work out, finer details of what that agreement would look like. So who are we? Again, we're Reef Starter. We design these nature-based resilient solutions. We have a modular solution. We design very large concrete modules. They're designed to withstand hurricane-strength waves. They're very massive. Each one weighs about 6 tons, and so they're not going to get moved around, and we have the modeling to back that up. This hybrid infrastructure that we put out there can reduce wave energy by over 90% and shield those vulnerable shorelines from those damaging storm waves. At the same time, we can regenerate ecosystems. We've designed these as these modules go together. Not only does each individual module have a wide range of roughness features, but when you assemble them together, we get this larger kind of reef scale roughness feature that you would find in nature. There we go. All right, so again, our system is modular. When it first goes into the water, and in the diagram you'll see here, well, this won't work on these, but on the far right side, you'll see where it looks like we're trying to depict concrete blocks going into the water. And once they go in, fish will start aggregating to them. We'll start forming biofilms, and then this progression starts of kind of evolution development will continue over time. But as soon as these things go in the water, you're going to get that immediate wave reduction, right? That wave energy, is going to be attenuated right from day one, and then the ecological uplift will happen gradually over time. And then we can scale these types of solutions for any specific location. Because they're modular, we can manage a design for any water depth or any size shoreline that needs to be protected. There we go. Just so you can get a better concept of what the size and scale that we're talking about. That's me all the way over there, standing in front of, we were doing some fitment tests as we had gotten our first blocks cast. So here, right, these are of course just so we can bring them in and show folks, how it is that we're doing what we do. But this scale it's really the scale that we're talking about. These are massive. As soon as you start assembling them, we can see, I'll just step off to the side for a second. We can see these channels that form as you start assembling the modules together. So not only do we have these features built into the modules themselves, but once they get assembled, we see these larger flow features that are going to really enhance the habitat in that area. And also, all of these roughness features add to the friction, which helps take that energy out of the waves and helps in that wave energy reduction. So we've done some ecological testing with our partners at KML. We had some concrete units cast at 1/3 scale, so these are of course much smaller than the full scale, and we were able to put those in their flow tank. And we attached coral and sponge to those blocks, and after 17 days we could see that kind of progression of the ecosystem uplift that we would have expected to see. We are also measuring water quality parameters during that test as well. But the organisms seemed to really like it. The lobster aggregated to it, and the urchins also aggregated to these blocks, and the snails, and they all started grazing on the algae, which is just what we would expect to happen in nature. Okay, so for us at Reef Starter, we want to get a pilot structure out in the water, and we have some criteria behind where we want to get that done. The first thing for sure, we want to get this done under real world conditions. Find a location that needs this solution and apply it there. Have them in the water long enough where we can get experience to some really high energy waves to make sure that everything, the stability is what we'd expected and what we're going to model. And again, we also want to find a location where there's that ecological complexity, right? We want to show people that we can do this. And so we want to find some place where we have these hurdles to overcome. Sea Oats Beach, why does this make a good partnership? Well, because it's a critically eroded shoreline already. Historically, though, it's been a turtle nesting location. There's the impacts from Hurricane Irma, where the road got washed out. So we have this historical chain of events that says this is an area that could really use some kind of structure out there to reduce that wave energy. And again, our proposal, what we're working on, is something that's going to be independent from the current village restoration effect, so it won't impact that progression at all. But at the same time, it will end up complementing and enhancing that ongoing restoration project that the village is already working on. And so we really want to just kind of fill you all in and like let you all know what it is that we're trying to do. So as such, in order to really fully protect Sea Oats Beach, it's about 1 kilometer of highway there that needs to be protected. So we would really need to build out a submerged breakwater system that stretches that full length in order to provide the shoreline protection and the infrastructure protection. What we're proposing, what we'd like to propose is just a pilot structure, just 100 meter, so about a 300-foot long structure that's put out in about 7-foot water depth. And that pilot structure will allow us to instrument it, to really study, to make sure that we're at first doing no harm, and second, accomplishing what we need to accomplish by reducing that wave energy. And so this is kind of a schematic. The structure, this is a schematic of what we would envision a full breakwater system being to protect that beach. And then we've kind of highlighted where we believe the most optimal pilot structure would go. And so this is kind of more of a zoomed in of what that one individual pilot structure would be, and this is the structure that we're working with the sanctuary now, and we're writing up the joint coastal permit that we'll submit to DEP and the Army Corps. This is what we would like to construct. You can see how it's shaped kind of like a spur and groove reef. It's about 900 of these modules placed out there. And it's going to be 100 meters or about 300 feet along the shore, and about 30 meters or 100 feet is the length of those spurs there. It's going to be right aligned with mean lower low water, so it will always be submerged. And then we'll, of course, work under Coast Guard regulations and work with the locals, fishing community to make sure that we have these aids to navigation, and we send the notices out so they know that there's this new submerged structure there. While it's out, we'll instrument it, measuring wave height reduction. We've also heard that folks might want to put acoustic receivers on because they have tagged animals, tagged fish that may be transiting that area, and so we're happy to work with them to get those acoustic receivers put on these structures as well, so we can kind of track, help you all track that. Yeah, and of course for us, it's also going to generate site-specific data, can inform our modeling, so as we move forward, we can improve our design. Trying to keep this going. So I was told we need to put a project timeline in here, and so I wanted to get something that kind of showed you all where we are in the timeline. We have a preliminary design, as you've just seen, kind of a very short example of that. We have already secured updated bathymetric survey of that area, so we've got all a new map of the bottom contours there. We're working right now on scheduling a benthic survey, so to identify where the seagrass is, where the hard bottom is, and what those benthic resources are. So that'll help us finalize where we might need to put this structure, so we can avoid as much impact as possible. And this is kind of where our partnership would start to fit in. We've had pre-app meetings with DEP, and we've talked with Peter Fraser here, and I think we with a co-applicant, it can really help us jumpstart that permitting process and kind of help move that along much faster. And I think, and so that's kind of where we are on the timeline. Once we accomplish the orange items, we'll circle back in, finish writing our permits, and then submit those. And then it'll take probably 9 to 12 months to get the permit under the best of circumstances.
Yeah, right.
A couple months for construction. So we're looking at 18 to 24 months, and if everything goes kind of smoothly. So again, I want to inform you all, let you all know what we've been up to here, and we've been communicating with folks in the community, whether it's in the sport fishing community or the regulatory communities, and we wanted to bring this to you all so we can let kind of everybody know. We do want to put in a request that you all consider partnering with us on this application for a joint coastal permit, but that's something that we can discuss even further. We don't expect a decision today I just want to get that discussion going. And then, of course, to reassure you that, we're not, we will work on securing funding for the construction. We'll manage the permitting requirements, and that can all be outlined in an MOU that we can either draft with you or the village could draft directly with DEP. I've talked to them, and they're like, they don't care how, just as long as one gets settled. And I think I'm done. So I hope I kept that within about the 10 minutes that I needed to. It's a lot to go through, but if you could put that slide back up really quickly. So again, this is us. If you're interested, this QR code will take you to our website. And of course, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
I guess a couple of questions.
Sir.
Have you given this same presentation to the Upper Keys Guides Association?
So we have not yet.
So
No.
that's a tarpon migration area there, and it's a
Yeah.
great bonefish flat.
Yeah.
And I think that many of us are going to rely on Steve and the professionals at the Upper Keys Guides Association to say, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Because those are the guys that know better than anybody else up here about what's going on down there. So,
We have the Commodore here if you'd
and
like
we
to.
have
Oh, absolutely,
sitting
great,
right
yeah.
behind you.
He's right behind you.
And I actually got out of him. So I think
okay.
it's very important that you get with them and we go over this and we make sure that this group is doing the right thing for that group.
Well, and that's really why we're here. I know we had planned to meet up with you a few days ago, and that meeting got bumped out. And we did meet with Allison at the Lower Keys earlier today. We had lunch with her and we're talking with her, and we've been in communication with Ross Buchik at the Bonefish Tarpon Trust as well. And so we're kind of trying to get in touch with all the right people in all the right places. And so
Yeah,
timing.
do that because, there used to be in April, there used to be a really nice pompano run down there too, but that was back in the 70s. And we don't see that anymore. And I don't want to see those tarpon not showing up anymore either, so.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, neither, and neither do we, right? And so I think that's, I think that's a large part of what we're doing is trying to make sure that we can, make these connections and make sure that it's a good fit.
Well, it's a good thing for Sea Oaks Beach. And if you can make it through Army Corps and DEP in 9 to 12 months, God bless you. Because I do a lot of permitting through them, and 12 months is the minimum. But I think that's the first hurdle from you is let's listen to the professionals. And Steve, you had?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I got a couple of things, but first of all, Ted, do you want to say anything or on it? Does the Guides Association have a position yet?
You got to get to the microphone if you are, Ted.
So
please.
I'm speaking on my behalf.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm only speaking on my behalf because the Guides Association, we have not met on this, so we don't have a formal opinion of it. But we did try and meet with Bridget a couple days ago, that's true, and it didn't work out down in at the Key Largo Marine in Long Key. But just from my perspective, like what Don said, the first thing that I thought of was that's exactly 370 yards off of Sea Oats Beach is right exactly where we call the Yellow Brick Road, which is an ancient tarpon migration spot. I'd be curious, if that was going to be affected. On one hand, artificial reefs can be a great thing, so that part of it I'd be curious about, and I'm open to. I kind of have questions about how necessary it is and how that beach is really doing right now. Are we at a huge risk that we have to do this? When you start messing with Mother Nature and installing things that may or may not be needed, sometimes it doesn't work out. So I am not saying one way or the other. I'm always curious about doing those kind of projects because
Yeah,
it doesn't always work out, and that's obviously the aid or the hazard to navigation, where they're calling for it being a third of a meter under the water, a foot. It's for little mountains underneath there. Not everybody is going to have the opportunity to look at the aids to navigation that they're proposing to put up. You might be disabled. You might be, and you've got these giant reefs
Right.
12 inches under the surface for a half a mile. And a lot of people aren't going to see that coming.
You know, the
But
first thing.
those
that
are
came-
just my questions, which could be
Well, hash that out
solved.
with these guys, and I mean, we're not, I don't know, for speaking for myself, I don't want to move forward until I know that we've looked at the science and we've looked at the realistic part from the captains, and you know what I envision? I envision that being a dog pile during lobster mini season. And everybody that finds out about this, gonna line up and stake their boat off and just fight each other over one of those interstices that's there.
Well, that's another question, is there's rules we have against putting
Absolutely. We
artificial
would have
structure out
make
to
that
attract
a no
lobsters.
something zone.
Are the lobster guys going to be happy about a half a mile long artificial structure that's going to obviously attract lobster? And
I'm
how's
not
that going to
against it,
displace
it
what they
just-
do?
That's one of those things that really needs to be vetted out. Steve, you got something else?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me personally, I like the idea, I like the concept. This is a pilot program. This is why you kind of inherently take some risks. They're talking about modeling and studies. They've never done this. I mean, I know people think concrete is heavy, but if you ever tried to use concrete as an anchor, it doesn't work very well. It's mostly water. So whatever you've got in there, hopefully you figured that part out of it. I guess I too am just concerned about the bureaucratic hurdles that you're going to have to tackle in this sort of thing. Again, I like the concept. I think it's necessary. My parents used to live at 75,000. I've seen that beach erode in a very short amount of time. It needs some resiliency. It needs some help. If it doesn't get in the way with the tarpon migration and the guides, and it being below tide, I've also looked at it, and it looks like even at extreme low tides, it could be exposed. So we know for a fact here that you can mark whatever you want to mark. It doesn't mean that people are going to adhere to it. So I guess one of my questions is, who's liable if something happens in a boating accident because of this?
Right, that's a good question, and I think that's what we would work out in that MOU that we would be drafting, right? I think, that's something that can be laid out.
And do you need Isla Mirada to partner with you, or is it just going to make that avenue a little bit easier?
I think not only would it make the avenue a little bit easier, but I don't, I think we would really want that, right? We'd want to know that the community is behind it.
Well, it's in our jurisdiction too. isn't it?
Well, is it more than 1,000 yards offshore? Isn't that our jurisdiction?
How you were proposing like 300 some odd?
300
Well, he's
feet.
talking meters. I don't
Yeah.
do meters.
Yeah, I know.
It's about,
I don't really either. We'd see though.
Multiply times 3.
multiply
Yeah, if
times
you
three,
multiply, yeah,
Easy
it's
way to
about
do it.
1,000.
It's not exact, but
Okay,
it's
because
close.
I thought I saw 1,200 feet or something like that.
Yeah,
So-
it's about that. So it's about 400 yards.
So what's our jurisdiction?
1,200 feet.
Oh, 1,200, okay.
So it's
But
outside of our
even
300.
if it was outside of our jurisdiction, I think the idea of the community buying into it and we thinking it's a good thing, even though it's outside our jurisdiction,
Yeah.
is a good thing on their side. I want to let him finish and I have.
I like the fact that you're willing to do acoustic monitors if we get that far. I think that any time that we can add science to science to benefit a greater discovery is a good thing. And then, let's see, we're going to have, do you see more of a positive impact from this ecologically? What are some of the negative impacts that you might see to the natural resources?
Yeah, I think for the most part, most of the impacts I think will happen will be positive. I think the one thing that we would be monitoring for that I would be a little concerned about maybe would be how fast the algae came before the grazers got there. That might be something that we would need to watch and monitor. Yeah, but I think at this particular location, it's a thin sand veneer, so we don't have to really worry about them settling down into the bottom. So
You might even get seagrass growing behind it.
We would definitely reduce that wave energy so that seagrass would likely be filling in behind that.
Yeah, so I mean, I see a lot of positive things
Yeah, me
here.
too.
And as long as we're not using taxpayer dollars for this, that we can get grants, and that we're not gonna be disturbing the migratory species or the creatures that hunt them, then I'm positive on this.
Good deal. Deb?
So it's ironic, years ago, Susan Sprunt was our biologist, and she was working on trying to do something on that beach through Army Corps, and she wasn't able to get far enough by herself. So I think we need to look at it as a project going forward, as a trial. You know, we don't want to do more harm than good. So everything Steve said is true.
I appreciate that. If I may kind of provide some additional feedback to what Steve said. You know, it is a lot of bureaucratic hurdles that we would have to overcome, and in those hurdles, like with the different regulatory agencies, you know, we have to have mitigation plans in place if things don't work well, right? So we have in the plan a bond that will set, so if we need to remove it, there will be funds there to remove it, right? So there is, you know, because without that, you know, the sanctuary, you know, that's a pretty hard line for that. Was,
Right.
you know, will you remove it if it's not performing? And so the answer to that is, of course, yes.
Just one more thing. What does success look like to you for this project?
You know, thank you for that. I think, you know, one success for me is involves, you know, getting the community on board and actually getting permitted and getting it in the water. So that on one level, like, that's success. Beyond that, for me, success is validating the stability that we've worked out both physically in our wave tank at Florida Tech with our scale model concrete units that we built, but also numerically. So you know, validating that and showing that indeed, you know, what we've modeled holds true in the real world. And then thirdly, success on the ecological side looks like, you know, these things, you know, we get this in the water, and within a relatively, you know, at the KML test, we had, within 17 days, we had things aggregating and films forming. So you know, within a few months, I would expect to see the same thing out here at Sea Oats. And then we'd start to see the grazers come in and the fish aggregating, and that to me would be success on those three different fronts.
Excellent.
Very good. Anna, anything?
I would say my only concern is just to make sure it's, if we move forward with it, that it is very clearly marked out there, because I can see somebody in a flats boat or anything hitting it and engines going down.
Yes.
So you have a plan in for marking like buoys, or
Absolutely.
what do you have?
Absolutely. So in the permitting process, the Coast Guard, of course, would require that we notice, that we issue a notice. And of course, then we would have to put markers around the structure. And so we have that, you know, marker buoys, you know, aids to navigation that would you know, line the outer kind of deeper water edge of that.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor?
I think it's great, but I also have some of the concerns Ted has, and I think before we move forward, there's some meetings that need to happen and some questions that need to be asked. And there are questions about lobster season and about the tarpon. So I'd be happy if we met with the Guides Association in both the Keys, and let's just move forward, but move forward cautiously to see, you know, what the experts who are on the water all the time recommend, so.
Yeah. I like that fake reef they put off of Miami that looked like a whole bunch of little Volkswagens that were piled up there.
Yeah.
They called it the traffic jam. It looked pretty cool, but
Yes, yeah.
that's a good idea there.
Thank you.
All right.
It's a little different than that, but yeah.
Well, we appreciate the presentation, and let's keep working on this. And Yes, John?
I just want to say, from legal's perspective, I mean, obviously, we would expect like a joint partnership agreement or MOU with this entity, which is something I would want it to be with this entity and bring it back before the council. That would spell out what the expectations are of the village, what the village's obligations are, would lay out a hold harmless, duty to defend, indemnification provisions in case there's any damage that's created during the installation process, any injuries or fatalities or damage to boaters or anything like that. So, that's something that I would expect on our end. But I would expect it to be with this entity, not with the DEP. That's who I would want it to be with.
Fantastic. Sounds like we
That's
need to have
perfect.
your attorneys talk to our attorneys.
Well, if your guys talk to my guys, yeah.
We'll have to look towards a prenup.
There you go,
Thank you.
exactly. All right, well, thank you all. Again, thank you for your time. Appreciate your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Nice to meet you.
All right, is Aaron, I hadn't seen Aaron Cutler here. Is he, you're not going to leave that for us? I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
We've been giving them out all week.
Oh, leave it there then. Leave it there. That's pretty cool. Is Aaron here? Aaron Cutler?
Say leave it there.
No, is it Aqueduct? What? Okay. You giving us our Aqueduct report?
Yes, sir.
What'd they do with Aaron?
Called, no one picked up.
He didn't get in trouble with us. We like the guy. Okay. I'm sorry.
Well, good afternoon, Council. My name is Jake Martinez. I'll be here representing Wade Trim and David Mullins. He will not be in tonight. I'm going to give you guys your Plantation Key transmission main replacement project update. As you guys already have been aware of the team here, the current project update is your pipeline is now fully connected and flowing and operational. You now have 34,362 feet of new drinking water pipe from Snake Creek, mile marker 85.9, to Julep Road, mile marker 92.4. Currently, the curb restoration is in progress, and paving is expected to start Tuesday, August 25th, 2026, and expected completion by the end of roughly September 2026. Work will be paused for FDOT blackout dates, major holidays, events, and inclement weather from Labor Day, September 3rd through the 7th of 2026. The drafted up traffic control plan for August through September 2026 from Snake Creek to Julep Road. The crews will be paving overnight from Sunday through Thursday, roughly 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. Rolling lane closures will move north along US 1. One northbound lane and two southbound lanes will remain open from mile marker 85.5 to mile marker roughly 91 at Tavernier Creek Crossing. You guys will have one northbound lane and two southbound lanes will remain open, while from Tavernier Creek Crossing through to mile marker 92, we'll have one northbound lane and one southbound lane will remain open. Accesses to businesses will remain open. However, entrances and exits may be temporarily have impacts allowed for asphalt curing. So they should be unaffected and will be prioritized throughout the restoration process. Paving and restoration is expected to be completed by end of September 2026. And you guys are now on step 10, final completion of your cleanup and work area. So completion here should be sent. Thank you. You guys have any questions?
Well,
Go, Steve.
I'm glad to see the paving schedule. Aaron said it was going to start in August, and August
know.
is almost done, so.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to hear that it's going to be overnight, so hopefully people will be less convenienced to get that wavy road straightened out a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for all your work.
So, yeah, thanks for everything you've done so far. I got a question the only question is, you're not going to use the same asphalt contractor as they did on the 18-mile stretch, are they?
No, sir, you should not have to worry about that.
That is wonderful, because I've never seen such terrible work on it as what's on that stretch. So, yeah, Vice Mayor? Anna? All right, well, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Council.
Moving on. Let's listen. Let's see. Diane, you're here to give us a presentation for the nearshore water regulation. Very good.
Thank you, everybody. Hello to everybody here, council, everyone else. I am Diane Harbaugh. I am the chair of the Nearshore Water Advisory Committee. We met on July 21st, and the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Nelson, came and provided the committee with an update. The new Starks Wheel Ditch Slow Zone has been seeing compliance, but there's also been seeing some non-compliance, and they're mostly just verbally telling people what's going on. Their patrol hours have increased quite substantially since the winter months into the summer months, and of course, mini season was a busy time for them. The bridges are still being patrolled, and they're seeing undersized violations coming from the roadside as well, with many notices to appear and citations have been written. We have been talking for a while about a holistic management to Islamorada nearshore water. And that would include all the way up and down the Keys. And so we took some maps, and after some detailed looks at the shoreline throughout the entire village, the committee has changed course on this subject, as all areas are quite unique. We will be developing a plan as needed, kind of on a piecemeal basis, for areas that need attention, because we don't feel that one blanket thing is going to work for all the islands. And it was noted that the Parmalee property down in Lower Matt appears to be growing, with boaters on the north and east side of the island now rafting up and stuff down there, as well as our Sunset Drive on the ocean. So those are a couple of areas we may have to look into in the future. The National Marine Sanctuary has not published the Federal Register yet as of then. I don't think they have yet still. But the new federal regulations will be in place in the federal waters. The state waters will remain as they were and will remain unchanged. Miss Sarah Hamlin, one of the committee members, has taken the lead on getting bird stakes put in the flats in front of Robbie's. That's that little tiny spot in front of Robbie's where they're swimming out, and there's they're fishing for the tarpon. They're literally swimming out there, standing on that shore and a little bit of mud and fishing for the tarpon. She's contacted the National Marine Sanctuary, and there's several options as to placing bird stakes there, because if the bird stakes are there, then they can enforce people not being there. So we are working on that, and hope to have a course of action at our next meeting. It was brought to the attention of the committee by one of our fine citizens through a letter that, there's still a lot of people speeding through Starks Wheel Ditch, and that maybe more signage would be there. I personally have not been to the Wheel Ditch in years, so I went down there in my boat just to go through and see. And, we have these buoys that are that tall, and they say slow speed idle, but if you go flying by it, you would never be able to read it. So we have been talking to the parks, and they have agreed that they have some signs in there now that say narrow channel, and they're going to take those existing signs and make them say slow speed. And they stand up high and very big, and so people will be able to see them. So we're hoping that will help to put that to rest. And we're going to continue to monitor that situation. Tavernier Creek Slow Speed Zone is the kind of same spot it's been. It's in permitting process, but it's coming along slowly, and they expect that to be done within the next few months. Where we talked about the Founders Park boat ramp improvements, and they're in conceptual design, and the committee wants to stay actively involved in that Founders Park boat ramp project. And then we updated the village the updated village comprehensive plan highly recommends that all marinas, boatyards participate in the Clean Marina program, which is a great program. I used to mentor that program. And Nick Kraus, one of our committee members, will champion the effort to assist any marina throughout the process. So as the comp plan moves forward and that's suggested, he's willing to reach out to the marinas and help them get that Clean Marina designation. And that completes my report.
Thank you, Diane.
Any questions?
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, Diane, you said you were trying to get the signage. Is it from the Lignum Vitae State Park, or what
Yes.
entity? Okay,
Yes, from Lignum Vitae.
okay, awesome.
Yeah, because they have those big signs,
They've
the
already
big
got 'em,
tall
yeah.
ones that say narrow channel.
Right.
Since you're in there going slow, you should, they're going to use
Oh,
those
yeah.
and change them. Yeah.
I study them.
Anybody else have anything for Diane? Thank you very much, Diane.
Thank you, everybody. I'll be
Great job.
watching from the comfort of my living room for the
Thank
rest
you.
of the meeting.
All right. Greg Dully for the Land Acquisition Committee.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and council people. I am here, I am Greg Dully, Plantation Key. I'm representing the Land Acquisition Committee that I'm chairman of. First and foremost, I wanted to recognize you guys. Frank Durfer had made a presentation to you during the village budget workshop. And from my understanding is that you guys had decided to put a $15,000 budget in for us next year, so we're very grateful for that. Just an update of what we've been working on since our last presentation. We've continued to prioritize, high-value hammock parcels, particularly those that improve habitat buffers and connectivity around the Upper Key, Upper Matecumbe, and Green Turtle Hammock. We sent updated outreach letters to 68 property owners on the acquisition list. We had 6 people that responded, so it generated about 2 serious follow-up opportunities, so we're pursuing those. We had recommended a few months back, or I forget the time frame, of possibly acquiring the Choate parcel, which is next to horse pens. It's a little sliver there. And we tabled that for a while. At the time, we had a willing seller. Unfortunately, since then, he's not such a willing seller. I believe he's looking for more money. We're suspecting that maybe he's talking to the owners of horse pens and a potential sale there. So we're going to continue to monitor that and see where that goes. We've continued evaluation on the Charles Roberts Family Trust parcel. It's a large parcel adjacent to the existing Green Turtle Hammock Nature Preserve. Will Markers, the seller. Our challenge is the difference between the appraised value and what Mr. Markle is looking for. He's looking for something in the range of $1 to $2 million, and it's currently appraised for $100,000 because of the zoning. So we're quite far apart.
Just a
However,
zero.
I'm sorry?
Just 1 0.
Close. However, there's 2 pieces to the property. It goes across the highway, so you have it on both sides. We're only interested on the one side that is already zoned as environmental. So we're going to keep it on the list. Rebecca Jetton is looking into the historical zoning records on that property, including possible earlier SR zoning and to clarify land use valuation considerations. So keeping that on our radar. We're also exploring other outside partners for possible funding sources. We had discussed a legacy heritage hammock recognition program. It's a public recognition program for signage to encourage stewardship of tropical hardwood hammocks and potentially promote conservation easements. What we decided to do is start with the village-owned properties, essentially just put a plaque out there, something that lets people know that this has been designated as environmentally sensitive and that it's, we're taking care of it, in hopes that private individuals who have properties that are environmental and haven't been developed, offer them the opportunity to brag about that, essentially. Give them the opportunity to get maybe their name and maybe a little thing about it, in hopes that they won't, develop it going forward. So we're working on that. The concept was positively received so far. Proposed next step is to include a pilot criteria, a sign design, program guidelines, and then review the process, and then bring it back to you guys. And next on the list is we had worked on some expanded public engagement. Back on May 19th, they did a after-hours event. The Chamber of Islamorada did an after-hours event at the new and improved Green Turtle Hammock. So we were able to go out there and discuss some of the Russell Cottage renovations and kind of advertise what the village is trying to do in conservation. We're also tracking a county land swap effort that's being advanced through the Land Authority. That's been on our radar. Our upcoming priorities are to continue to monitor the Choate property acquisition, continual historical zoning and valuation research for the Charles Roberts Green Turtle Hammock adjacent property, then bring more developed options for both BPAS land dedication incentives and legacy hammock recognition program, which I had mentioned. And then continued public outreach through Green Turtle-related events and educational materials. And that's it. Any questions?
Council, any questions? Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, Citizens Advisory Committee appointments. Stephanie, let's see, you've got
Yes.
two that are,
We've been actively trying to fill these vacancies. We have one candidate, Marilyn Smith, for Historical Preservation Commission. Her application is in your packet. I just would, all in favor, be okay, or however you guys want to handle that. Are you okay with putting her on the HPC?
I think that's a good way to
Everyone?
do it. We've got one applicant.
One
We've got
applicant,
one
one
opening.
vacancy.
Deb, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Steve? Yes. Anna? Yes. Vice Mayor? We're good. I'm good
Perfect.
too.
On to the
Very
next
good.
easy one. On the workforce, we have two openings. We have one application, Ms. Joan Jacobs. Leaves us with one more opening as well, if anybody out there is interested.
And that's on the Park and Recs?
No, that is
No.
on the workforce.
Oh, that's on the
affordable housing.
workforce, okay.
Yes. Are you guys,
So you want a motion or you
thoughts
just
on
want?
Joan
Anna, you good?
Jacobs?
We're good? Vice Mayor? Yep, Steve?
Good.
Deb?
Good.
Okay,
Says
like I
okay,
said,
five of us?
still one outstanding application. Anyone out there?
We've
You
got
could
one
put in-
more outstanding, we've got one
One
more
position?
opening
Yep.
on the workforce affordable. So we filled one, we've got one more opening. So somebody out there in TV land, send your application in. We can get you in quick.
All right, and on to our next one. For our Parks and Rec, we have two openings, and you have three applications in your packet. We have a Scott Goss, we have Cindy Smith, and we have a Paul Webering. And I gave you all ballots, probably be the easiest way to put your name on them.
So we've
Put
got a,
round one. You need to pick two out of those three applicants.
we've
And we're
each
not ranking them, that we're just marking and
just put an
just
X
mark
by the
two.
name you choose,
Just
and that'll
make
make
sure
it
we-
easy, yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we
Like
got
this one.
your ballots,
Just remember, put your name on the
two
ballot for public
X's,
records
put your
purposes.
name, and it's round number one. Oh, here comes our Vanna.
My trusty assistant.
Not only a great planning director, but our Vanna tonight. I love it. Good deal. Survey says? I know.
Okay, so we have 5 votes for Cindy Smith, we have 3 votes for Scott Goss, and 2 votes for Paul Webering. So I see
Take number 5 and number 3.
that perfect puts us with Cindy Smith and Scott Goss. And Paul Webering, we still have we still have a vacancy on Workforce Affordable if you'd like to put in for that.
That's right. There's a good plug. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay. Let's move on. Okay, we've got mayor and council communications. Steve, you have anything for us to talk about tonight?
No, sir.
Deb? Miss Anna? Sharon? Okay, very good. Let's see, we'll move on to village attorney and village manager. John, do you have anything you want to discuss?
Nope, nothing from me.
Okay.
No, sir.
Ron?
Nope.
Okay. Well, with all that now, let's move on to public comment. It's open public comment. It's something that's general in nature and not something that's specific that we're going to have discussions about tonight. It is open again. So, Stephanie.
I have Dr. Ken Thomas, followed by Jamie Engel and Joe Wishmeyer.
Very good. Line them up. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you. I'm Ken Thomas. I've enjoyed the Keys since the 1950s, lived on Winley Key for over 20 years. 20 parking spaces serving Islamorada's most exclusive community now sit where our green right-of-way once stood. Anglers Reef won, Islamorada lost. The developers got what they wanted thanks to 3 of 5 council members. For over a year, I spoke here at every council meeting opposing this giveaway. I documented serious constitutional and legal concerns, filed AG complaints, and cited case law demonstrating it was legally flawed and exposed the village to legal and other liabilities. Anglers Reef had other alternatives. They could have used valet parking, leased nearby property, or bought adjacent land. Instead, this council let them use our public property. 2 of the 3 who sided with the developer are running for re-election in November. When Islamorada residents vote, ask yourself, do I want elected officials who allow private developers to use our public green space, or do I want officials protecting our public resources? This isn't complicated. It's about whether our representatives put the public interest first. The 3 who voted yes chose an exclusive vacation rental community over Winley Key's future. They approved a sweetheart $1,000 monthly lease over protecting public property. They disregarded constitutional concerns and AG opinions by cleverly calling it public parking when it was applied for, built by, paid for, and being used and maintained by a private developer. They chose private interest over the public interest. Now it's the voters' turn to choose. This is not the Islamorada I want to leave to my children and grandchildren. This is the most important issue in November, not taxes, not development approvals, or not reefs. This is about whether Islamorada protects its environment or continues giving it away to private developers. The Keys are special because we value and protect our green space, unlike Miami. Miami didn't happen overnight. It happened one decision at a time, one right-of-way at a time, one public official siding with developers. We had 3. Sun Outdoors and other Islamorada developers using Anglers Reef playbook can't wait to develop our right-of-ways. I've written books, dozens of articles, and taught at universities for over 40 years about the importance of good public policy. This will become a classic case study for local governments nationwide of the opposite, how public resources got improperly diverted to private interests by shrewdly calling something public when everyone knew it was private. The bright side of this, the Anglers Reef case study will hopefully prevent local governments around the country from making the same mistake. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Jamie.
Hello, good evening. Jamie Engel, Plantation Key. I want to begin by thanking each of you, council members, the village staff, and our department heads for the time and effort that goes into preparing the annual budget. My comments tonight are not about the budget itself, they're about the process. I believe a budget workshop should be just that, a workshop. It should give residents an opportunity to hear the presentations, understand the reasoning behind the request, ask questions, and then provide informed input. Instead, according to the agenda that was published, the public was limited to 3 minutes to comment before the department heads had even presented their budget. It's very difficult to provide meaningful input on information we haven't even heard yet. Holding these workshops at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on weekdays also makes participation difficult for many working residents and business owners. There was also another problem this year, scheduling. When the village publishes 3 days of budget workshops, the public should be able to rely on those 3 days. The third workshop was canceled during the second day because the council apparently felt the work had been completed. But council and staff are not the only participants in a public workshop. Members of the public may have planned to attend the third day. I know because I did. The fact the council may have finished does not necessarily mean the public is finished. It also didn't help that essentially the same agenda was posted for each day. Residents had no way of knowing which departments or portions of the budget would be discussed on which day or time. Someone interested in a specific area shouldn't have to sit through multiple days of meetings hoping to catch that discussion. Going forward, I respectfully ask the council to consider a better process. Public participation shouldn't simply be something we provide 3 minutes for. It should be something the process is designed to encourage. And we shouldn't continue doing something simply because, what I've heard from many of you, that's just the way it's always been done. If there's a better way to create transparency, participation, and trust, I believe we should be willing to make that change. And one final question, and I didn't hear it brought up, was with the resignation of Pat LaFear, who has been overseeing the project for the baseball field for more than 4 years, where does the project stand today? Mr. LaFear previously told us the work needed to begin immediately in order for the field to be completed in time for the 2027 baseball season. Has the school district been in contact with the village manager or anyone in the village since the resignation? And do we have any updated construction schedule and a firm understanding of when the work will actually begin, and more importantly, when it will be completed? Most importantly, we need to make sure that whatever decision is made does not leave the students without a baseball field for the 2027 season. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Who is next, Stephanie? Really?
My name is Joe Wishmeyer, Plantation Key. Mayor and council, first, I would like to thank the mayor for letting me speak a little bit out of turn at the last meeting on the passing of Van Cadenhead. He was a lifelong resident and will be sorely missed, and those who knew him know why I have the bells with us tonight. It was brought up very briefly by Vice Mayor Mahoney today. Those that may not know, one of our fellow captains, Rick Stanzik, was struck by lightning. Excuse me. It hits very dear to me because, like I say, I knew the family, and we just want our prayers to go out. On a different note, I may sound a little bit like I'm uninformed on some of the issues tonight because it was very difficult to try to read and digest a 999-page agenda with only 3 days to do it. So that made it quite difficult. In view of the budget workshops, 3 o'clock in the afternoon is very difficult for working people to attend. Seeing how you had it set up for only 3 hours, most of our village council meetings go longer than that. So I believe that we should have been able to start at 5:30 as a normal time so that people would have the opportunity to participate. Packing such a huge budget into 2 days instead of the 3 scheduled seemed a little irresponsible. My opening statement at the July 2025 meeting was, and you may remember, I would like to express my gratitude to our village manager for creating a citizen advisory group to review the budget and get public input ahead of time. I also pointed out that the 2020-21 budget was $35.8 million and the 2024 budget was $60.7 million, even though property values rose by $560 million, leaving Islamorada residents to pay double the amount of money that Marathon residents pay. Why? With the state of Florida reducing homestead exemption taxes, the village should also be reducing expenditures to become more financially responsible. At the upcoming budget hearings, I encourage the public to show up and voice your concerns about our overwhelming and seemingly out of control budget. We all just received our trim notices in the mail. How apathetic. Let's trim the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
That's all I had signed up, and no hands are raised on Zoom.
Okay, you still have public comment open. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? All right, hearing none, public comment is closed. Excuse me? You want to take a break? You want to take a break? Guys, you ready to take a break? Yes? No? Okay. Yeah, we can move on. Let's move on. John, will you open up consent agenda, please?
We're into the consent portion of the agenda. These items are of a routine nature, and council members have reviewed these items in advance and sought the advice of staff as they felt necessary. There'll be one vote on the consent items, which today are items tabs 2 through 4 and 6 through 9. If anyone would like to pull an item from consent, he or she should state so now.
Steve, you want to pull anything?
No.
Okay, Anna? No. Vice Mayor?
No, but I want to comment on tab 4, that should never happen, and we need to protect ourselves in the future. The generator building
Yeah.
is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That we ended up paying an arm and a leg for a generator building, and we didn't hold their feet to the fire like we were supposed to. So I just want to go on record saying I hope we don't do that again.
Yep. Yep, $1 million building for a free generator. All right. So is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Do I have a second? Excuse
Public
me.
comment.
Yeah, if there's we can do a second, but then we'll have to do public comment before
Okay,
the
very
vote.
good.
I'll go ahead and second.
We've got a motion and a second. Can I have any public comment, please, on the consent agenda?
I have no one signed up and no one on Zoom.
Okay, there's no one signed up for the consent agenda. Is there anyone that would like to talk about the consent agenda tonight? Seeing none, public comment is closed. All right, let's see. I'm so sorry, Stephanie. I'm so used to doing that. It was almost a whole Marnie, but it wasn't. I stopped myself.
Councilmember Anna Richards.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Friedman.
Yes.
Councilmember Deb Gillis.
Yes.
Mayor Don Horton.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, moving on to resolutions.
Tab 10 is a resolution of the Village Council of Isla Mirada Village of Islands, Florida, approving the final rankings and recommendations of the RFP 26-06 Evaluation Committee for selection of a contractor for the Canal 145 backfill restoration project. Authorize the village manager and village attorney to negotiate an agreement for the project. Authorize the village manager to execute the agreement. Authorize the village manager to expend budgeted funds and providing an effective date.
Peter.
Okay, thank you, John, and good evening, council. So, council, as you are, I'm sure, aware now, we are planning on moving forward with our next canal restoration project, which is an organic removal and backfilling project on Lower Matacumbe Key at canal number 145. That's the canal that runs in between and parallel to Cortez and Columbus Drive. So this project would continue the village's commitment to canal restoration, improving our nearshore waters as well as the canals. And we also doing it to meet the requirements of Florida Commerce's work plan through the Area of Critical State Concern program. So it is a requirement to be doing these canal restoration projects. So it was on June 2nd of this year that the village did issue request for proposals 26-06 to solicit proposals from qualified firms to complete this restoration project. We did receive, sorry, we good? Okay, we did receive 7 proposals for this project.
Well.
Yeah, so to evaluate the proposals, as usual, the village manager did appoint an evaluation committee that was 3 staff members that reviewed all 7 proposals. So there were 100 points given for each committee member to rank each proposal, so total of 300 points total per proposal. The rankings are given in your agenda package this evening. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will highlight that the company Adventure Environmental Incorporated was ranked number 1 by the evaluation committee with a total score of 289 points. There was a unanimous decision. All evaluation committee members selected Adventure as number 1, and 289 points is very high for something like this after doing this so often. The second ranked firm was 249 points. So adoption of this resolution, it would authorize the manager and attorney to approve an agreement with Adventure Environmental to complete this project. Their proposed cost is $2,093,000. Our proposed fiscal year capital fund budget for this coming year, 26-27, does include $2.65 million, $2.6 million for this project. And we did apply for and did receive a grant, Florida Key Stewardship Act grant, to fully fund the full cost of this project, including the monitoring as well. So that's good news. Staff are recommending approval and adoption of this resolution and the execution of an agreement with Adventure for this project.
Great work, and great work finding the grant money for this project. All of your environmental projects that you brought forward, you were doing a great job on the grants and stuff, and we really appreciate that, Peter.
Okay, thank you.
And
Any
you've
questions?
used this company before?
We have,
Yeah.
yes. They have done work for us before. The results on similar backfill jobs have been excellent.
Right.
Yeah, they've done our last 2 backfill jobs, and they've done a phenomenal job for us.
That's
And
great.
the county as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
And all of the work that we're doing down here, we've gotten the attention of Congressman Jimenez, so I
Right.
think we're going to get good support out of him in the future as well. We're doing some great stuff.
Yeah.
So, folks, is there a motion to approve? Sharon?
She's hesitating.
You turned your mind, oh, look, they're all.
All right, motion to approve.
Okay, I got a motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any opposition?
No.
We have
Hearing no opposition, the
public
motion
comment
carries.
here.
Comment.
Oh, public comment. I'm so sorry. Is there any public comment?
I have no one signed up and no hands raised on Zoom.
Is there anyone who would like to speak on this topic? Okay, very good. Motion, public comment is closed. And I have a motion on the table in a second, and I have no dissension, so hearing that, the motion carries. Yes,
I was going to call them.
you don't need to, not on this, because they're all unanimous.
Tab 11 is a resolution of the Village Council of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, approving a use and occupancy agreement for the Caboose property, parcel 521, with the Florida Department of Transportation, authorizing village officials to implement the terms and conditions of the agreement, authorizing the village manager to execute the agreement, and providing for an effective date.
Okay.
Peter, you're
Sorry.
still going. Go for it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so
I'm
sorry.
Just
I
waiting.
thought you were just going to go.
I was waiting on you,
Go,
Mayor,
Peter.
to
I'm
acknowledge
making
me.
a note
Okay,
here.
I'm here. All right. So, yeah, the Caboose property. So, thank you, John, for the introduction. A use and occupancy agreement, just a little bit fancier terminology for a lease. So, what we're proposing here is to lease the FDOT-owned property. It is owned by FDOT. The Monroe County had previously had the lease on this for a few decades. And the Caboose property, I probably don't need to tell you all where it is, but maybe just for the record, it is at mile 82.6 on the Bayside, and it does obviously house the large red caboose you can see from the highway. The county did determine that it was no longer interested in leasing this property. We subsequently started discussing with the county. They agreed, yeah, okay, it's in your jurisdiction, it's within your boundaries, much better suited for you. The Monroe County BOCC did adopt a resolution terminating its lease with the FDOT on this property. So we subsequently started discussions with FDOT about assuming that lease. They were in favor of that. So Florida statutes does authorize a lease to state-owned property when a public purpose is served. So for municipalities such as the village, the FDOT does require that we adopt a resolution which states the public purpose, which is what we have here this evening. And the public purpose, we're not proposing changing anything. We would like to keep the property as a public historical site, a rest area, a picnic area, passive recreation, and also a native plant garden. Now, there has been some sublessees in the past that have managed the property, such as the Chamber. The Chamber had sublesseed it, and so did the Matacumbe Historical Trust, who did some great work there, not only on the caboose, but they installed some markers, some signage. They're great. They're still in excellent condition. They're historical markers. If we assume this, we would love to keep these in order and make sure that the historical markers stay intact. So also, at least 2/3 of the property right now are overrun with invasive exotic plants. If you all have seen it lately, it's a mess right now. So another reason why it makes sense for us to take it over to beautify this area. We would propose, if we do accept this, we propose a landscaping restoration project where we remove the invasive plants, replant with natives, and it's a beautiful place. There is so much potential for this property. It could be amazing. There's a beautiful solution hole in the middle. There's trails. So we're really, really optimistic about this, and we hope that the council would, see this as favorable. The restoration project, it would be eligible for the landscape mitigation funds, from the impact fees. I think it's a perfect project to use that fund for. AJ and his crew are very aware of this. They're in support of it because obviously there's going to be a little bit of maintenance, not so much with the vegetation, because if we plant it with natives, that they take care of themselves. It's not going to be that much trimming, no mowing. So generally relatively little maintenance, maybe some garbage pickup and things like that. And then there'd be an upfront, maybe a minor upfront cost with some work we would need on some infrastructure behind the caboose. If you all have seen it, it needs a little bit of work, some trash removal and just, a little bit of upfront work. So again, AJ is in support of this, and his team is able to complete this work. So yeah, that takes care of kind of the budget impact with that. And yeah, that's it. We are recommending adoption of this resolution as well, to assume a lease of this caboose property. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Council?
Yeah, I like it. Anytime we can obtain green space for basically zero money and a little bit of maintenance, I think is great. We clean it up, it looks better. We've got another nice public spot for people, passive park, whatever. We can even do events and things like that maybe there. So I think it's great. Thanks for helping out with this, you guys. And we're going to clean up that property, and it's going to be great.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Steve. Deb?
Yes, that property's been there a lot of years, and it does have historical value. And there's also a couple trees on there that Peter and I talked about. There's a couple Spanish lime trees that really don't exist in the Upper Keys except here. So as Peter's going to try to protect them in there.
You ever eaten them?
Huh?
You ever eaten them?
Yes.
They're delicious.
They're good. They're very good. So. Well, there's not that many limes there. But it's a good place for a stopover. It really is.
Good deal. Anna? Vice Mayor? All right.
Okay.
So why don't we open up to public comment? Is there any public comment, Ms. Stephanie?
No one signed up and no hands on Zoom.
Okay, no raised hands and no one signed up. Is there anyone that would like to speak? All right, seeing no one, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Is there any opposition? All right, well then, seeing none, the motion's going to carry by unanimous consent.
Tab 12, this is the first of about 6 or 7 assessment rate roll resolutions. This is a resolution of the Village Council of Isla Marta Village of Islands, Florida, relating to the construction and funding of wastewater collection and treatment facilities within the North Plantation Key Assessment Area, reimposing special assessments for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2026, approving the assessment roll, providing for collection of the assessments, and providing for an effective date.
All right, very good. AJ?
As John was saying, this is the first of many for our assessments of the annual collection for the first one, and this is the MPK, if you guys have questions on them.
Deb?
No, we haven't had public comment, but I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. Motion
Even
to
so.
approve. Is there a second? And then I'll open up. We got a second. Okay. Is there any public comment?
No.
Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Anyone would like to raise your hand on TV land? Seeing none, hearing none, public comment is closed. We've got a motion and a second. Steve, are you?
I'm good with it this time.
You're good. Anna, you're good. Vice Mayor, you're good. I'm good. All right. So seeing none, the motion carries by unanimous consent.
13 is a resolution of the Village Council of Isla Marta Village of Islands, Florida, related to the construction and funding of wastewater collection and treatment facilities within the North Plantation Key Supplemental Assessment Area, reimposing special assessments for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2026, approving the assessment roll, providing for collection of the assessments, and providing for an effective date.
Again, this is the second one. If you guys have questions, I'll be here.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a second. Steve, you good?
Good.
Vice Mayor, you good?
Good.
Seeing no opposition, the motion.
Public.
Oh, I got public comment. Hang on. Somebody's got to talk on this one.
Nope.
No. Public comment going once, going twice. Sold. Seeing none, motion carries by unanimous consent.
14 is a resolution of the Village Council of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, relating to the collection of wastewater fees and administrative costs within the Woods Corner assessment area, reimposing special assessments for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2026, approving the assessment roll, providing for collection of the assessments, and providing for an effective date.
Here for questions.
Same thing, AJ?
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have public comment? Public comment? No. Going once, going twice, public comments closed. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm good.
All right. Seeing no dissension, the motion carries by unanimous consent.
15 is a resolution of the Village Council of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, relating to the construction of wastewater collection and treatment facilities for the wastewater assessment area within the village, excluding the North Plantation Key, Woods Corner, and North Plantation Key supplemental assessment areas, reimposing special assessments for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2026, approving the assessment roll, providing for collection of the assessments, and providing an effective date.
AJ?
This
Nothing
is
different?
Nothing different. This
All
is
right.
the RSA
Very
one,
good.
yeah.
Is there any public comment?
Skip this.
No public comment. We're going to do it one more time. Is there any public comment? No raised hands. Public comments closed.
Motion to approve?
I got a motion.
Second.
I got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good, okay. Seeing no opposition, the motion carries by unanimous consent.
Tab 16 is a resolution of Village Council of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, relating to the construction and funding of wastewater collection and treatment facilities for Phase 2 of the wastewater assessment area within the village, but excluding the North Plantation Key supplemental, and Woods Corner assessment areas, reimposing special assessments for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2026, approving the assessment roll, providing for collection of the assessments, and providing an effective date.
Anything different, AJ?
No, sir.
Nothing at all, very good.
Motion to approve.
I got a motion to approve.
Second.
I got a second. Is there any public comment?
Nope.
One more time, is there any public comment? All right. Is everybody good with this? We're good, we're good. All right, seeing no opposition, the motion carries by unanimous consent.
Tab 17 is a resolution of Village Council of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, related to the provision of stormwater management services, reimposing stormwater service assessments against certain real property within Islamorada Village of Islands for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2026, approving the stormwater assessment roll for the stormwater service assessments, providing for collection of the stormwater service assessments, and providing for an effective date.
Very good. AJ, anything different on this?
This one, so this year we do have an increase from $32 per equivalent stormwater unit to $62. This was at the recommendations of the Stormwater Management Master Plan. And that's the only changes that we have.
Council, any questions of AJ?
Do you, the master plan, does it have proposed projects that we're planning on using this money for, right?
Correct, yeah. There's
We don't know
10
what that is
projects
yet.
on those.
There's what?
10.
Okay.
Anything else, Deb?
No.
No? Okay. Is there any public comment on this?
Nope.
Is there any public comment one more time? All right, can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? No?
I'll second.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, going once, going twice. Steve?
I'm good.
You're good, Deb?
I'm good.
I'm good too. So seeing no opposition, the motion carries by unanimous consent.
Tab 18 is a resolution of the Village Council of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, relating to the collection and disposal of solid waste in Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, reimposing solid waste service assessments against assessed property located within Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, for the fiscal year beginning October 1, typo 2026, providing for the rate of assessment, providing for the assessment roll, and providing for an effective date.
This is our last assessment for this. So this is for our solid waste, and there is a rate increase from 510 annual for each resident to 550, and this is for the solid waste services.
Was this 7.84% increase anticipated, AJ?
Yes.
Was it built into their contract?
No, this has nothing to do with the contract.
Okay.
That's the next item.
Okay.
So this is the rates that we collect for the residential services. So this is We pre-collect all the money
I
and
got
then
you. Okay,
or the pass-through cost to Island Disposal for that services.
okay.
I was just looking to make sure the notices are right.
If I understand this right, this is how we pay them.
How we pay them, right.
Yes.
Right. Right. Okay. Is there any public comment on this item?
No.
All right. Is there any discussion more from council? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, the motion carries by unanimous consent. AJ?
Sorry, 19?
Yes.
Something new. All right. So, resolution of the Village Council of Isla Mirada Village of Islands, Florida, approving a Fourth Amendment to the Contractual Services Agreement for solid waste, yard waste, and recycling collection and disposal services with Island Disposal Company. Authorize the village manager and village attorney to enter into the Fourth Amendment to the agreement for the requested services. Authorize the village manager to implement the terms and conditions of the Second Amendment and providing for an effective date.
All right. So this item is the annual fee adjustment to the continuing service agreement with Island Disposal. This agreement has an annual price adjustment for the solid waste services that can increase by the June CPI of that year. This year's increase is 3.4% for collection and hauling rates, and then there's an additional 5% increase for the disposal services. The disposal services are managed by the county, and that's where our solid waste, Island Disposal disposes of our solid waste. These increases both affect both the commercial and residential rates, and I'm here for any questions you might have.
Deb?
Did you figure out the answer to my question?
It was correct.
It was correct.
Yeah.
Okay, just so everybody know, the answer to, the question was, and I probably had figures wrong, is I came up with a much higher percent for the commercial rate than I had on the residential side of their contract.
I got you.
And so I was asking that to be verified, that that was equal
Okay.
for our businesses.
Right.
He says it's the same.
Any other questions of AJ? No? Okay, is there any public comment on this item?
No.
There's no public comment. Public comment one more time. Is there any public comment? All right, see it none. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Deb is making a motion to approve. Is there a second?
So I'll second it.
There's a motion to approve and a second. Steve?
Good.
You're good? Yes? Okay. Seeing no dissension, the motion carries by unanimous consent.
Tab 20 is a resolution of the Village Council of Isla Mirada Village of Islands, Florida, approving a First Amendment to Work Authorization Number 3 between Page Excavating, Inc. and Isla Mirada Village of Islands, increasing the not-to-exceed amount, authorize the village manager to expend budgeted funds, authorize the village manager to execute the First Amendment, and providing for an effective date.
All right, last item for me. Hopefully. Page Excavating provides repairs and infrastructure services for the village's wastewater department. Some of the work performed by Page is required for new construction, emergency repairs, and moving or adjusting existing infrastructure. These items are paid for by the requested property owners. So these items are essentially a pass-through expense and reimbursed. The village pays for the work performed and is reimbursed by the property owner. Currently this year, we have received over $334,000 of reimbursed work, but this work that Page does perform counts against our not to exceed. These are unplanned projects, but are brought to us by new construction, things like that. The current work authorization is for $1.165 million. An increase of $70,000 is required to get us with our normal operating to the end of the fiscal year, and that would increase it to $1.235 million. I'm here for any questions if you have any.
And you said that this is unanticipated, but it is pass-through funds.
Correct. So the funds that we have received to date is $334,000 that have been passed through funds. So if you take that off of the 1.165 of the current not to exceed, we would still be under budget of what we had planned to spend this year.
Does any of this work require street crossings?
At times, yes.
Okay, and you've been getting quite a bit of complaints about street crossings. Are any of the complaints coming back from these projects?
Not from our projects, no.
So those are from plumbing and electrical contractors crossing the street for underground electric or sewer
Correct.
hookups?
Correct, yeah, they're not applying for their right-of-way permits and doing those without. They're getting building permits, but they're not authorized to do any of the work within the right-of-way. So they're doing that work without permits, so they're not doing the repairs correctly.
Is there a way to go back and track that down to where we can figure out who's going to start paying for these street crossings and the repairs that are being required?
I will have to talk with Sheila on that. Maybe we can go through and see with some of this new construction, because any type of new construction requires underground electric now. The conduit is usually installed by an outside contractor, not FKEC, but the FKEC does pull the
So it might be a good
wire
idea to amend our building permit application to include that. If that's going to take place, then somebody's got to oversee that, permit that.
These are issues that were previous, and we have discussed this, so anything new coming in, we'll be getting those requirements. But a building permit that's been issued, a couple years ago, and it still hasn't got to that point, does not have that.
Very good.
So,
Any other questions or comments from Deb?
I do.
Okay.
I do. On the first page of the staff report, you said the total payments to Page was 1.161, and that we paid him, and I understand that we pay him and then we get paid back.
Correct.
But on the second page, you just gave a different number. On the second page, it says to date, 1.161 has been invoiced to property owners for the work that has been done.
correct, that one
But you
point.
said something about 300,000 something.
Correct. It's a little misleading. The 1.161 is potential for reimbursement through grants that we can submit because it's infrastructure. But so as an example, the 334,000 that we've already received, you can't double dip. I can't re-invoice the grants for FQIP or stewardship or anything of that
Yeah,
nature.
but this
and
said
get-
that this was due from the property owners. So that's not exactly true?
It's collectively it is, but it covers both of them.
What do you mean
I'm-
collectively?
I'm trying to not make it difficult to follow, but I see where it's misleading. I understand where you're saying it's
So
misleading.
what you're saying is that 300,000, rounding figures, is
we've-
from the residents, and the other
The other
700,000,
remaining,
800,000 is through grants?
correct.
Okay, it should say that.
I understand that. I see the error on that, and that was something I had missed.
And I asked you about that.
And that's when it came to light.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Any public comment?
No one signed up.
Okay, is there any public comment out there in TV land or here locally? All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Are you good? Vice Mayor, you're good? All right. Seeing no opposition, the motion carries by unanimous consent.
21 is a resolution of the Village Council of Islamorada Village of Islands of Florida approving amendment number 3 to the continuing services agreement with Tetra Tech, Inc. for debris monitoring services and financial recovery assistance services. Authorizing village manager to execute amendment number 3, authorizing village officials to implement the terms and conditions of the amendment and providing for an effective date.
Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. As you can see in the agenda item, we put this out to bid the summer of 17, put them under contract just before Irma. They performed amazingly well for us. At the time, they were just doing debris monitoring. They did have a price adjustment in 20 and then again in 23. Now they're coming back for another price adjustment just so that they can kind of stay where they're at doing their CPI. So Tetra Tech is just people doing debris monitoring. They also do our closeout for PA and PD submittals to FDEM and FEMA post-storm event as well. Just kind of checks and balances on everything that's going on with the storm. So for them, it's just people. It's pretty straightforward. It's a 3.19% increase to their contract price, and an effective date would be October 1 moving forward if adopted tonight.
Any questions of the chief? Yes, Steve?
Yeah, just so everybody knows, this is something that only gets utilized when and if we need it. This is a monitoring company that is necessary to make sure that what they say is put into a bin is in fact what's put in there, right?
Absolutely. So again, only utilized for a storm event, and they basically become the babysitting service to the guys that are doing the hauling and the reduction and then the rehauling, grinding, whatever. So they babysit them in the field when they pick it up. They babysit them here when they reduce it. When they haul it away again, they babysit it yet again, and then they also have them sitting at the final destination, the tip scales in West Palm and in Immokalee, which are two dump sites for whether it's C&D or whether it's vegetation. So they have them spaced everywhere, and it's monitoring everything, photographing everything, geotag locating everything that gets picked up, because depending on where it's at, it can become different. So if you guys recall, post Irma, we cleaned up the village and it looked amazing, but FDOT didn't clean up US 1. It's a separate contract. So we did an amendment to both Tetra Tech and Ashbridge's contracts in the fall of 17 to clean up US 1. Well, those got paid at a different rate because the FDOT contractors had a different rate, and the guys are like, hey, I could wait and work for them in a month. And we're like, nope, we'll pay the extra money, get it cleaned up, and we're gonna look better than everyone else. So.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you, Chief.
And again, yes, it is reimbursed post-event at a 75 from the federal government and 12.5 from the state.
So it lessens our exposure on that as well.
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right. Is there a, Deb?
Well, I was just going to say, as we were at League of Cities, there was one of the sessions was on FEMA or emergency management, and I knew we had lots of things in place, but I came home and double-checked, and we did it months ago.
Yeah.
There was people at that meeting that hadn't started the process where we are today, and I thank you for that, Terry.
Yep. We don't forget.
Nope.
Right. Anything else, council? Is there any public comment?
No.
Public comment one more time? All right, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion to approve in a second. Anna? Vice Mayor? Okay, no, there's no dissenting votes. Seeing none, the motion carries by unanimous consent.
Tab 23 is a resolution of the Village Council of Isla Marta, Village of Islands, Florida, approving execution of Amendment Number 4 with the Professional Services Agreement with Ashbridge, Inc. for debris management services, approving the revised fee schedule attached as Exhibit A, authorizing village officials to implement the terms and conditions of the amendment, authorizing the village manager to execute Amendment Number 4, and providing for an effective date.
Chief.
So again, summer of 17, this contract or this RFP went out. The fall of 17, we adopted this company as the winning bid. Irma came 3 days literally after we signed their agreement. They did amazingly well for us. So these are the contractors that actually go out in the field with the clam trucks, the bobcats, the front end loaders. They have the tub grinder that goes out on the great lawn. We had the white goods across the street that had to get cleaned. So they clean our streets, they come here, they reduce it, and then we haul it again, and it's the haulers that take it to the final destination. So this is heavy equipment and heavy expenses, tires, fuel, all that good stuff. So their price increase is a little bit of all over the place. The bigger, heavier, more industrial equipment, some of their prices actually increased as much as 74% over the 2023 agreement. On average, it's about 12 to 15% increase in costs. And again, it's mostly fuel, insurances, and personnel costs. But it is a little bit of all over the place. You can see it in Exhibit A. There are quite a few that actually have zero change to the cost increase, and it's kind of a play on words on their part. It's stuff that we would never utilize. So it's us in our village community would never utilize the stuff that have no change in price. So why should they add an increase to something? So it makes it look sexy, and it's maybe not going to use it, so I don't know how to word it better, but we'll never use the no change item, so it's kind of a moot point. But we have to have it, and as Councilman Steve said, we do get reimbursed 75 from FEMA and 12.5 from the state, depending on the amount of destruction we have and the amount of damage that we can show earlier on. Cat A and Cat B, which is the early on aspects of debris hauling, debris management, and cleanup, can actually be either 100% covered or 90% covered, reducing the amount that we have to cost share. After that, it usually goes to that 75, 12.5, 25 split.
All right, council, any questions of Terry?
There's pre-approvals now in place these days too, and I think the public needs to know this kind of information, is that if we have already done our homework, which we have, you can submit an invoice, and they're obligated to pay us 80% of that invoice within 30 days.
Yeah.
So that gives us our money back to work with.
And one of those reasons was because a lot of cities were having to pay interest rate on their borrowed money.
Right.
Without getting that money back, and it was taking a couple of years.
Right.
And
Right.
they weren't coming back and reimbursing the interest rates that they were paying. It was
Right.
painful.
And even with us doing a good job the last time, it took us almost 7 years to get the final payments.
Yeah,
So,
right.
but they've put better programs in place at the state and federal level to work with that, so.
Chief, I know that it's an ongoing agreement with this company, but because of the untimely demise of the owner of the company, do you see any restructuring that's happened or anything that may affect our relationship with them?
No, sir. Unfortunately, Randy did pass, but we deal with Dal Knight and Brian Thomason. They're upper echelon, and the rest of their staff remains intact, and his daughter's running full steam with the business and doing an amazing job.
Good news.
I have no
Okay.
doubts that if the time comes, we make the call, they'll come and represent us well.
Good news. All right, council, anything else? Is there any public comment?
No.
Going once more time, is there any public comment? All right, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Steve, you good?
I'm good.
Vice Mayor? All right, seeing no opposition, the motion carries by unanimous consent.
Tab
Do it again,
23.
Terry. Chief?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, John?
Oh, yeah, I thought you were talking, so I didn't want to interrupt. Sorry. Resolution of the Village Council of Isla Marta, Village of Islands, Florida, approving amendment number 1 to the agreement between Florida Keys EVR LLC and Isla Marta, Village of Islands for fire rescue vehicle apparatus maintenance and repair services, approving the amended fee schedule attached as Exhibit A, authorizing the village manager to expend budgeted funds, authorizing a waiver of competitive bidding, and providing for an effective date.
Chief?
So as you can see, this is Florida Keys EVR Emergency Vehicle Repair. It's a company based out of Key Largo. He keeps all of our larger equipment, our engines, our rescues, and our ladders going in motion. Our other trucks we take to the local shops. The big trucks can't go to those shops. It takes a specialty. He comes to us, works on our stuff at the stations. We've been under contract with him since 2023 with no issues. However, he did not have any way to get a cost of living or increases on an annual basis. So the last 3 years, he's been doing it all at the same flat rate. He has now requested that we do a 3% step each year moving forward with the contract. So that's what this resolution is. He's requesting a 3% step from October 1, and then additionally each year moving forward 3%.
And you've plugged this into the proposed budget?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good deal. Any other questions for Terry? Stephanie, is there any public comment?
No.
Going again, is there any public comment? All right, very good. Public comment is closed. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Steve, you good?
Yes.
Okay. Vice Mayor? All right. Seeing none, no opposition, the motion carries by unanimous consent.
Tab 24 is a resolution of the Village Council of Isla Marta, Village of Islands, Florida, approving fiscal year 25-26 expenditures with Boundary Medical for the supplies for the village's fire rescue, authorize the village manager to expend budgeted funds, authorizing a waiver of competitive bidding, and providing for an effective date.
Chief?
So you guys saw this in October of last year, and then you saw it again in June for my not-to-exceed pricing. Historically, we have spent average about $45,000, $50,000 for our medical supplies. The cost of our medical supplies are increasing, going up. So in June, I had to come to you guys and request an additional spending of about $10,000 to go from 50 that you approved in October to 60, hoping that that would get me through to the end of the year. Unfortunately, during that duration, from April until August, I had one of my firefighters that actually does the inventory on the room. He was out fighting cancer. When he came back, praise Jesus, he did an inventory on his room, and he found that he needed to order a bunch of supplies to get our order points where they needed to be so that he was comfortable with our inventory. That being said, he used up that $10,000 increase that I had asked for in June relatively quickly. So now I'm asking for more money, so I'm increasing that threshold to $75,000 for my not to exceed, so that we can pay for both that gap, and we also have outstanding bills that I can't pay until this resolution passes, so that I can pay bills that are already in the queue. And this will carry us through to the end of the year. And it is in the budget.
And those meds that you use are reimbursable by the user when you pick somebody up?
That was tab 8, so yes, and we increased the rates on what we bill for EMS as well.
Right.
And in next year's budget, have we already made this adjustment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any public comment?
No.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I want to go home.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any public comment? We want to do that again? None? 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 Okay. Steve, you're good?
I'm good.
Vice Mayor? Okay, we've got a motion, and we're going to, I see no dissension, so motion carries by unanimous consent, and we're going to take a break. The break alarm went off, so we're going to take a break. quasi-judicial.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. So we are in the quasi-judicial section. There's 3 tabs on quasi-judicial, tabs 25 through 27. 25 and 26 are our companion, so we'll address that when we get to those. Please be advised that the following agenda items are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment on these items, please inform the village clerk by filling out the available sign-up form. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. As a reminder, testimony in quasi-judicial matters must be in person. Zoom testimony is not permitted. These proceedings will be handled in accordance with the village code requirements. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be given under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony shall be disregarded. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the council to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record, along with the village code and comprehensive plan. Any correspondence that was received by village staff is included in the file and part of the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures in section 30-256 of the village code may be obtained from the village clerk. As mentioned tonight, there are 3 quasi-judicial items. They're tabs 25, 26, and 27. At this time, I would ask anyone who intends to speak on the quasi-judicial items to please raise your hand to be sworn in by the clerk.
In the matter about which you are to give testimony, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? The witnesses have been sworn.
Mr. Mayor, as mentioned, tabs 25 and 26 are companion items. Usually we take those together. We usually seek consent of the applicant to do that. We're actually the applicant in those items, so as long if you guys are okay, I can read both titles. As always, we'll take separate votes on each, but we can hear them together if you're okay with that.
I think it's the prudent thing to do, so please read them both.
All right, tab 25 is an ordinance of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida to amend the village's future land use map from public, semi-public services to mixed use for the subject property located on Upper Matacumbe Key with real estate number 00402900-0000000 as legally described herein, providing for the transmittal of this ordinance to the State Department of Commerce and providing for an effective date upon the approval of this ordinance by the State Department of Commerce. Tab 26 is an ordinance of Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida to amend the official zoning map from public, semi-public services to highway commercial for the subject property located on Upper Matacumbe Key with real estate number 00402900-0000000 as legally described herein, providing for the transmittal of this ordinance to the State Department of Commerce and providing for an effective date upon the approval of this ordinance by the State Department of Commerce.
Very good, thank you. Jennifer?
No. Before we begin, Council, if you'll please disclose any ex parte communications that you may have had on these matters. Again, these are tabs 25 and 26, and please include with specificity whether the person represented a group as well as the subject matter of and the discussion as you best recall.
Very good. Anna?
None.
Vice Mayor?
Nope.
Steve?
Just with staff.
Okay, Deb?
I spoke with Mark Gregg concerning what the new items was, why it was coming back.
No, this is only on our rezoning.
Sorry,
Rezoning in Flum
I'm
of
3
the-
steps ahead of myself.
You are. Yeah. But we
I did
already
not
know-
speak. I did not speak with Mark Gregg on the church.
Nothing on the church property. Very good. And I've had no communication with anyone.
All right, we're ready to proceed.
Good evening, Council. Jennifer DeBovary, I'm Planning Director for the Village of Islamorada. I'm here this evening again for second reading on this property. This is the church property that is now owned by the Village of Islamorada. This is second reading. You may recall back at your February meeting, you approved the first reading to rezone this property from publics to semi-public to highway commercial. This was so that the village would have more opportunities to either dispose of it to somebody who might be interested in developing it, or even if the village had some other option to develop it in some other way. So that was the council's decision to move forward. So we did do first reading. We did send it to the Department of Commerce for coordinated state review. We received no letter of objection from them, so we are here for second reading tonight. So nothing has changed. We are back before you, just hoping to get this approved. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Very good. Council, is there any questions that you may have of staff? Okay, then I think what we need to do is open this up to testimony of any of those that are in favor of this rezoning and this refund. Okay, Marty, I'm so sorry, Stephanie. Stephanie, I need you here more often, that way I won't forget you. Stephanie, is there someone signed up to speak in favor of this?
No.
Okay, is there anyone out there that would like to speak in favor of this? Okay, is there any opposition to this?
Joe Wishmeyer.
Okay, very good. Joe?
Yes, Joe Wishmeyer, Plantation Key. I just find it ironic that the whole reason that previous councils bought this property was to keep development. I think at that time it was going to be a CVS or something, and they didn't want that in there, and that was the whole premise of buying this property. Since that time, you know, we have found that it would cost us so much money to bring it up to code now that, you know, it doesn't really suit us to put that money into it, to kind of hang on to it. So I hope this is a lesson for this and future councils, that we need to be a little more diligent on properties that we buy. Thank you.
But Joe, the question was, are you in favor or in opposition of this zoning and flum change?
I guess technically it would be neutral, because I understand that the village needs to do it. I just wanted to be heard that the fact that what we've gone through with this, I don't want to see that happen in the future. So, but I know when I put down neutral, Marnie, when she was there, not you, but when Marnie was there and you put down, it was kind of confusing as to how to bring it up, so.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, is there any more in favor or in opposition? Okay, is there any more discussion on council? Okay, then why don't we start off first with the amendment to the future land use map, changing from public, semi-public to mixed use. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay, Stephanie, we need to call the roll since this is a zoning change.
Councilmember Anna Richards.
Yes.
Councilmember Deb Gillis.
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Friedman.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Yes.
Mayor Don Horton.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, now I'd entertain a motion to change the map from public, semi-public to highway commercial for the zoning.
I'll make a motion to accept as presented.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Stephanie, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Deb Gillis.
Yes.
Councilmember Anna Richards.
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Friedman.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Yes.
Mayor Don Horton.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
very good.
Tab 27 is the resolution of the Village Council of Islamorada, Village of Islands, Florida, considering administrative appeal number PLADA 20260069, filed by Mark Gregg, appellant, relating to an administrative decision interpretation by the Director of Planning, reconsideration of dwelling unit determination for property located at 86751 Old Highway, real estate number 004118900-000000 on Plantation Key, Islamorada Village of Islands, Florida, as legally described herein, and providing for the transmittal of this resolution to the State Department of Commerce, and providing for an effective date upon approval of this resolution to the State Department of Commerce. Council, again, before we begin, if you'll please disclose any ex parte communications, including specificity with regard to the subject matter as you best recall.
Steve?
None.
Deb?
Yes, now I have talked to Mr. Gregg, and it was just about what the new evidence was that he was bringing forward.
Thank you very much. Anna?
Nothing.
No.
Vice Mayor?
No.
All right, folks, based on the advice from our attorney to avoid any potential appearance of any bias, due to the fact that I represented in this similar request in a previous council, I'm going to recuse myself, and I'm directed by our attorney that I should hand the gavel over to our Vice Mayor, and I should leave the room. So that's what I'm doing.
we can begin.
Okay. Jennifer?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Again, Jennifer DeBobrian, Planning Director for the Village of Islamorada. This request before you this evening is an administrative appeal of a dwelling unit determination request that was sent to, or done by staff this past year. Mr. Gregg had asked for a reconsideration of a resolution 17-01-02 that was done in 2017 by that village council, where they upheld the previous staff's determination that the property located at 86751 Old Highway was a single-family home. Mr. Gregg was trying to get staff to make a determination that it was a duplex and not a single-family home. They determined that they did not feel there was enough information or that it met the code requirements to be considered a legally established duplex. He appealed that to council at the time. Council upheld their decision, and resolution 17-01-02 is the result of that. Mr. Gregg has since then filed a request for reconsideration through my office, declaring that there was some new information that he wanted reconsidered. When I reviewed that information, I didn't find there to be any new information or information that was new enough to make it enough for me to reconsider that resolution and to overturn any decision of the council. So I denied his request, and he has taken an appeal of that decision. So we are here for that request, and I don't really have anything additional to add other than I stand by the fact that I don't believe there was any new information provided at this time.
Thank you, Jennifer. Welcome back, Mark.
Thank you.
And please proceed.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for saving the best for last. So, I'd like to kind of comment on, Jennifer and her staff. When I applied to do this, it was complicated. It's difficult. There was a lot of technology involved in sending documents, and I couldn't be happier with the result that I got. The staff was helpful. They helped me with the posting. If you've ever done posting and mailing, it's not easy if you're over 60. So I just wanted to give her a plug. So nothing to do with the substance of what I have to talk about, but she deserves a plug. So thank you very much for your help. Having said that, I have a slight disagreement with one of the things she said. I didn't actually apply for reconsideration. This is a brand new application for some new things that have happened since I was denied the appeal in 2017. There's 4 new things I want you to look at, and I'm going to get to those in just a minute. And 3 of them concern what happened at the last hearing in 2017. One of them is brand new. The new information that I have, and I handed you out a packet just a few minutes ago, and those are photocopies that are already in your materials. I don't know what the page numbers were on your materials. It looks to me like it's close to a 3-inch thick package of documents. So this is a convenience package. Everything in there is in your materials. I did put some highlights on there to call attention to some of that. I'm going to try to be brief so you can go home early, because I know we're all tired and we would like to do that. The first thing is that there's a property record card in there from the property appraiser's office that was produced after I had my hearing in January of 2017. And I have it on there, and it is, you see the little red circles that I placed on there? It's actually it's part of package number 2, the second one that you see there. And that is actually a building permit that I applied for in 2017 after my hearing was denied. And you can see on there, it was a fence permit, and the permit was for, I put on there what it was for. It shows that it's for multifamily, and that was issued by the village. And in that sort of thicker package of documents near the end, you'll see the property record card there, and that was provided by that's a requirement when you apply for the permit, and you have to attach that. This property record card shows that the use of the property was multifamily. And if you go to the next page, the last page in that packet, you'll see a diagram in there provided by the property appraiser's office that shows 2 units in the building, 1 and 2. None of that was part of the first hearing that we had in January of 2017. So this is new material. The building permit is the second item, so this is kind of a two-in-one packet. And then there's the third item, which really doesn't concern me at all, but something that you did last October. There was another matter that came from before you. It was a triplex on Carroll Street owned by Dr. McGrain. And he had different issues than me. But one issue that he had in common with me is that he was required to provide an aerial photograph. And the aerial photograph was used to establish the structure where his 3 units were contained was there at the time before and after 1990. That is the issue that caused me grief in 2017 and was the reason that I was denied. It appears to me that the village has now changed its position on that. And that is the main reason that I came here to ask you to take a second look at this. I just want to be treated the same and to be treated fairly as those who have come after me. And if there has been a change, I don't see any reason why I can't take a benefit of that or enjoy that, just like everyone else before me who has done. And I don't know the other cases. I understand that there's been other dwelling unit determinations where the aerial photograph issue was the same as in Dr. McGrain's. In my case, the fatal flaw, so to speak, was that the staff required me to prove the number of dwelling units in the building from an aerial photograph. And if you think about that for just a minute, it's impossible to do that. The law does not require you to do something that's impossible. So I lost, and that's the only reason why. There were 3 requirements I had to prove or to comply with. I met 2, and the aerial photograph was the one that caught me. So now that the council has changed its position because you approved that, or the staff has changed their position that you went along with, I would like you to take a look at my facts under that scenario and treat me the same as you've treated others in a similar situation. I'm not asking for anything new, just to review it on that. The last thing which is new is that when I applied for this it was initially applied for this. This was for a pre-application conference where, if you've done that before, you know it's where an applicant writes down a list of questions based on certain facts and is looking for answers. And one of the questions, or several of the questions that I asked, concerned whether or not my property, if it didn't comply with the other requirements, could it be considered non-conforming? Because there's 2 different ways you can do this under our code. The first way has to do with the 3 requirements. That's part of the BPAS law, to see if you're exempt from BPAS. Then there's a whole different set of regulations or provisions in the code that deal with nonconformities. And nonconformity is just a modern fancy word for grandfathering. And basically, if it was legal when it was built, but the law changes, it should be allowed to stay. And that's what I'm asking you to do, to look at that tonight. So I know you know bits and pieces of the story because I've been before you directly or indirectly before. You've heard about this from others, I'm sure, because I guess I'm controversial and people talk about me all the time. I can't imagine why. So, but let me just give you the basic facts. The building that we're talking about was built in 1957. In 1957, permits weren't required. In 1957, there was no zoning. So it could have been built then because there was nothing to hold it back. The first permits, the building permits that I'm aware of, occurred in 1959 or 1960, and then the zoning code, I think, came into effect in 1963. One of the criteria under the BPAS exemption rules is whether or not the building could have been built and the use could have been done legally at the time it was done. In other words, if the law in 1957 allowed this to be built as a duplex, then it's considered to be, it complies with the code. Well, there was no permits required, so I can't give you a permit, and because of that, it was allowed to be built. Not only was it could have been done in 1957, but in 1963 up to 1985, when we had the old Monroe County zoning code, it was zoned as BU2, Business Use 2, which, according to the staff report that was done in the 2017 appeal, they agreed that it could have had a duplex. A duplex could have been legally built on that property between 1957 and 1985 under those rules. That's allowed, and that's also in the packet that I gave you. If I can find it really quickly, bear with me. You'll see one with the circle on it, number 5, and that is the letter that I received from the village staff in 2016 when I first applied that denied recognizing my dwelling unit. On page 3, this is the 3 criteria that you're required to meet under the BPAS law. And the one here that I have highlighted describes whether if you can build something, if you can't find a permit, but you can show that the building, could have been built legally at the time it was built, then it meets that requirement. And they agreed, if you look at it, it says criterion 2C has been met. So that's the one I'm focusing on, and that relates to nonconformities as well. Let me look a little further in some of the documents. When we had the appeal, there was a member of the village staff that was, in my world, a prosecutor, the person who would have been in Jennifer's position that made the argument as to why my appeal should have been denied. He was senior staff planner Carl Bursa, and he's the one that, if you see on the number 1 paper that I gave you, he's the one that authored the council communication that set forth the reasons why I should have been denied. And so the reason that this is significant is because, yes, the council did vote to deny that. However, 9 months later, when I applied for the fence permit, Carl Bursa was the one who approved it. And if you look on there, this is the one number 3, I believe. Bear with me a second. Actually, it's number 2. That's the building permit for the multifamily for the fence. And if you look to page 3, you can see I've circled Carl Bursa's signature there where he's approved this for planning purposes. It's again on the second page. There were conditions attached, but none of them had to do with the conditions of the duplex. It had to do with the height of the fence and being turned one way or the other and some other physical fence characteristics. So to me, I think I got a permit that recognized that I have a multifamily or a duplex unit, and it was issued by the same person who opposed me at the initial hearing where I was denied that. I don't know how to explain that. I don't think it was a mistake. Carl was very familiar with this. So to me, he looked at the property record card that showed multifamily was attached to that permit application. So he must have seen that and gone along with that. I can't speculate, but what I can say for a fact is I have a building permit from the village for the property that shows the use as multifamily. And that came after the first denial of the hearing, the first hearing where I was denied, issued by the same person who opposed me. That to me is significant. So that's the nuts and bolts of my argument. I think I've read in some of the materials are online that one of the neighbors wrote a letter of opposition. If I remember it right, and I might not, maybe I heard this from someone, but there's a concern that I'm going to redevelop the property or strip off the TDRs and sell them off or do something like that, which couldn't be further from the truth. I have no intention of doing that. And as a matter of fact, if you want to see what I really want to do with the property, I have a pending building permit with the village. It's been there since 2023. It went through the system. At one time, it was approved by, if I remember correctly, by Sheila's office. It met all the building department requirements. And then when it got to the doorstep of the planning department, of course, it was denied because I had not gone through, it had been approved as a duplex. If I was lucky enough to get your approval on this tonight, I intend to activate that permit so that I can remodel the building. It's going to be 70 years old next year. My brother lives in the back unit. He's here tonight if you want to ask him about it. He's been there since 2015 when we bought the building. The reason I bought it is because it was set up as a duplex. And at the time, my father was alive and he had dementia and cancer. And I needed a place to keep him close to me because I lived around the corner on East Ridge. My brother, God bless him, sacrificed and agreed to be his caretaker. But they couldn't live together because my dad was very difficult to deal with dementia. So we had a duplex, and it had a pass-through in the middle where you could go from one unit to the next or lock it out. And that's the only way that they could coexist. So for several years, before we moved in there and after, he took care of my dad who just wanted a comfortable place and a safe place to live until his time came. And he lived there until a few days before he passed away. And so as a part of that, I had agreed to make it a nice place for them to live. And I told my dad he could stay there for the rest of his life, and I would do whatever I could to make that happen. Unfortunately, he passed before I was able to reach that goal. But I have a commitment to my brother to do the same thing because of the sacrifice that he made to take care of my dad. Excuse me. So that's why I'm here. I want to fix up the place. I want to put on a new roof. I want to put on, replace the plumbing, the electric, the air conditioning, the doors, and the windows. That's what my permit application is for in the building department. I don't want to sell anything off. I don't want to put a second floor on it. I don't want to do vacation rentals or whatever else. I'm just not interested in that. That doesn't suit my needs. So that's why I'm here. And that's what I'm asking you to do, is to take a look at this from the perspective of the building has been there for nearly 70 years. I haven't changed a thing except for the kitchen sink faucet since we moved in. It's in rough shape, and it's not going to last much longer. And I've had this stalemate with the village for the last, it's been 10 years now, to try to get something done. And I just can't give up on that. I don't think I did anything wrong. I followed the law. The code seems to say that the building has been there forever. There's other people that have come in and applied for things that have shown just a slab that happened. The one right next to the old, trailer park over here, that owner came in and asked for recognition of dwelling units. There was nothing there, and they recognized the slab because it had been there many years ago. I've had a building that's been in good shape for at least 70 or nearly 70 years. All I want to do is legitimize that. If this gets approved, and I'm happy if you want to put a condition on there that there's no TDRs, there's no vacation rentals, there's no second floor, there's no additional square footage. None of that is what I'm here for. I just want to take what's there and fix it so my brother can stay there for the rest of his term, and we have the rest for whoever else in our family needs it, or maybe rent it out. I haven't thought about that, but that's the reason that I'm here tonight. And the code says I need to meet 3 requirements. It has to be habitable. There's a letter in your file from Sheila that's verified it. She did a site inspection and said it was habitable. It said that I have to show that it could have been built with a permit at the time it was built. The document from the earlier planning department documents that. That leaves us with the aerial photograph. So the way the code is written, it seems to address a single-family home. It doesn't seem to address a multi-family situation. To give you an example of how this needs a little help, is if I were the owner of the Turek building that you know at mile marker 90, 2-story building, apartments on the top, business on the bottom, they can't prove how many units are in that building with an aerial photo. That's why it doesn't make sense and it's unreasonable to require an applicant to do that. It merely is there to show that the building existed at the time, well, before 1990 and after 1990. That's what the code says. I've submitted the aerial photographs from '68. It shows the same roof or footprint, you might say. There's a little corner that looks dark from the shade of a tree. In the later aerial photograph, there's a little rectangle sticking out from the side. That's an awning that was placed on there by the prior owner. It's not part of the interior of the structure. So really the only changes other than roof, windows, and doors, that's the only thing you would notice if I was allowed to do this from the outside. Other than cleaning it up, I've been told by, well, lots of folks that it's not looking too good. It's run down. It's an eyesore, and I have to agree with them. But I don't want to fix it because I didn't want to do anything to change the way it was when I bought it, so that I would have an opportunity to stand here and ask you to take a second look at that. So I guess I'm out of steam at this point, but I'm able to answer any questions that you have. I'm really not asking to do anything that I think is going to be harmful to the community. The village has known that we've been using that as a duplex for the last 10 and a half or 11 years. and no one's complained. There's been no code enforcement complaints, no violations. This is really about getting a permit, a building permit, to fix it up and to keep it. Each side has 2 kitchens, 2 bathrooms, and 2 separate living spaces and bedrooms. That's what a dwelling unit or a duplex is, 2 of each of those. And I have that. There's a letter in there. Let me see if I think it's number 8. It's number 7. Number 7 is a letter from Jerry Albertson. If you didn't remember him, he was the building official in 2016 when I applied the first time. He came over, he did a site visit, he did an inspection, and you can see I highlighted his email. I would classify this property as a duplex. And he mentions that it has materials from the 60s and 70s. So I'm here to answer any questions. I'm sure there's going to be some folks that are going to say some things in opposition. I think you should listen to them. I'm going to listen to them. I want to make them happy. But you won't notice any difference if this is approved. It's just a paper approval. The inside will be cleaned up, and the outside will be made presentable, and that's about it. So,
Finished?
I am finished, thank
Okay.
you.
Council, does anybody have a question for Mr. Gregg while he's up there? Okay. All right.
May I
so-
sit down?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we open up, anyone in favor of this? Marnie, I'm sorry, Stephanie. I know, we're gonna get you a hat or something, so when I look at you, your name's up there.
Not in favor.
No?
No.
Okay. All right, so now, opposed? Stephanie?
First, Joe Wishmeyer, followed by Cerise Pinder.
Yes, Joe Wishmeyer, Plantation Key. I've owned duplexes in the past, and some of the requirements that I had to go through was I had to have 2 mailing addresses, 1 for each side. I had to have 2 electric meters, 1 for each side. I also, you've heard this before, I had to pay 2 EDUs. Yep. So that came up to that, which means that I had to have 2 separate kitchens as well. Now, I noticed that when Mr. Gregg was talking tonight, he said that basically the only improvement he made was he changed the kitchen sink, which led me to believe that there's only 1 kitchen in there, and I don't believe that that meets the requirements. It was previously heard by council and turned down, and the only thing that has changed, as far as I can see, is we have a different council and different staff, so I would suggest that you go with the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Stephanie?
Cerise Pinder.
Hi, Cerise.
Hello, Cerise Pinder, Plantation Key. I live at 102 East Ridge Road. My property is adjacent to Mark Gregg's. I have lived there since 1990. My in-laws had lived there since the day that the house was built in 1960 or 61. And my father-in-law told me before he passed that that was never a duplex. I've actually been inside the house before Mark bought it, and there was not 2 kitchens nor 2 separate living spaces. I'm not opposed to him cleaning it up and remodeling. I've done that to my house and got all the proper permits, and I think that it's high time that that one's done also. My concern is that it's not a duplex. There's never been 2 meters. There's never been 2 mailboxes. So in my opinion, that doesn't need to be approved. If he wants a permit to remodel, great. Put a new roof on, windows, doors, whatever he needs to do. I mean, Barry is a great neighbor. I think that's awesome that he cleans it up for his brother. Again, to repeat myself, it was never a duplex, and I don't think that that should be permitted as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Cerise. Stephanie?
That's all I have signed up.
So that's it? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes, that's all that's signed up.
Okay. Does council have any questions before I have the Stephanie, God. Jennifer, got everybody's names wrong, have something to say, or Mark come back up? Do you guys have anything beforehand?
I don't have anything. It looks like Mark
Steve?
has something to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess for Jennifer, with the fence permit that Mr. Gregg gave us, who fills this out?
The applicant does.
So the applicant put on multifamily here.
That's correct.
And is it part of the job of the planning director to check that, to make sure that that's adequate and within the parameters?
I can't speak for that planning director or that planner at the time. Nowadays, we typically look at that and confirm, like, I'll give you a recent example. We had somebody apply for a window permit recently, and they put down that it was a duplex, so we had no evidence that it was a duplex, so we denied the permit and made them provide us evidence that it was a duplex. Fortunately, they were able to provide a permit and provided us the evidence, so we were able to approve their permit. So the planning department does look at that, and we don't just take their word for it. Again, this was, almost 10 years ago, so, staff changes and people do things differently. We're constantly trying to, I don't want to say fix the mistakes of the past, but things are always constantly changing and not everything was caught, or done the same way, but we try to make sure that we make people do the right thing. And, if somebody just put on multifamily or duplex, nowadays we would not just assume that it's correct.
Right, and if I put down condo here, you would probably catch that.
Correct.
Okay. Mark, I noticed that you also did some landscape cleanup there. Do you have something else planned, or?
That's on the lot, the separate lot next door. So.
It looks great.
Well, it's coming along slowly. There is something that I would like to explain to you since you asked about that. I don't know that it's relative. If it is, maybe it's a little positive. I used to own the lot that's to the south of that. It's a half-acre lot. And we had a private little nursery there, and we had some key limes and pineapples and fruit trees and stuff for several years. I wasn't able to take care of it. I got sick last year, and so I lost all of that. In the meantime, way back, I don't know when it was, several years ago, I had applied for a building permit for that, went through BPAS, and I got a building permit. It had been sitting there for several years. I couldn't build on it, wasn't able to do it physically. So someone came out of the blue and offered to buy it from me. They'd been interested in it before. So in March, I sold it to them. And it was the whole lot with the permit. 3 weeks after we sold it, the buyer came to me and said, "This is a really big lot. I don't need all the land. Would you like to have some of it back?" So I said, okay, and we negotiated for me to take the front 50 feet or thereabouts. It's a triangular piece, so it's not quite 50 feet. And we went to the planning department. We processed a lot split and lot combination application, and that was approved. I had a great experience with that as well because it was a little complicated. And so now that little triangular sliver that was on the other side of the house, or duplex, is now combined to be all one lot with the property where the duplex is sitting. So what it did for me is to got rid of a nonconformity because it had a setback problem. The house or the building sits within, 3 or 4 feet of the side of the property line. Now it's 100 feet or 130 feet. So I didn't want to be evasive. It doesn't make that much of a difference, except that the real purpose of that is for my brother to have a place for his dogs to run. And we have plants and things that we still play with, and there's a beautiful mango tree there. So did I answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, because you had some nice lime trees on there.
Yeah. I got sick and I couldn't take care of them, and they died. So that's what happened to that. I wanted to mention about this permit here. I did not fill this out. This is printed by the village. I filled out an application. I don't remember what I put on it, but it's a public record. And I probably did write multifamily on there because it had to match the property record card that was required as a part of the building permit process. I didn't want to have confusion, and then I did what it said. I did what I thought was right. There was no trickery. I wasn't slipping one in. You know, everybody can read, and the application that I filed apparently matched the property record card, and that's how it got approved. I think that's a pretty obvious from this. But the idea that I did something to kind of get this, you know, under the table or whatever, no. To tell you the truth, I didn't even know that the property record card had been changed to show multifamily until I went to print it out and attach it to this application. Now, Mr. Wishmeyer said something about, well, he doesn't have 2 meters, he doesn't have 2 mailboxes, and that sort of a thing. So when I got this permit, and we did fix the fence, I went to the 3rd floor over here at the administration building, and I spoke with, I believe it was Deb Genther. And I said, look, I got a permit, it says multifamily, it's really, it's being taxed and assessed as a single family. I think I need to step up and pay for the extra unit. And she said, sure, that sounds good. So she took the information in. The story that I got, so this is going to be hearsay, was that it was taken to the planning director, who, Cheryl Trafari, was the one that, you know, disapproved this 10 months earlier. So she contacted the property appraiser, and then they then changed it back. So I tried to do the right thing and get that taken care of. With regard to the electric meter and the water meter, I had this happen on another property that I owned, where I had a house with a cottage. And as soon as I closed on it, it was the first house I ever bought in my life in 1988, right behind the Whistle Stop on the corner of Ocean Lane and the old highway. It was an old house built in the 50s with a cottage. And so the cottage had a full kitchen, so did the house. So I got a letter from the Aqueduct Authority that said I owed them, I don't know how much it was, $2,500, unless I could demonstrate that it was put in before a certain date. I want to say 73, 78, something like that. So I had that information, I sent it in, and I didn't have to put in a second meter. The same thing occurred with the electric co-op. Their date was a little later. So if you if the property had more than 1 unit on 1 meter and it was done before whatever those magic dates were, it was considered grandfathered in and it was fine. I did go down and try to get a permit to put 2 meters, 2 electric meters, but I can't do that unless it has 2 units and gets approved by the village. So it's a catch-22 or whatever you want to say. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to pay the extra EDU. I'm happy to pay all the things that you should and supposed to pay that I tried to pay when this got approved in the end of 2017. If that's a condition, if you approve it, I'm happy to do it because it's the right thing to do. And that's it. 1 or 2 other comments. You can't get 2 mailboxes without 2 units and legal units, so I'm stuck there. And with regard to my good neighbor, Sharice, I don't know when she was in the building, but there are 2 kitchens in there. They're old cabinets and old, everything is old. I think in your list of materials, and I didn't make a copy of it, I did include a photograph of, I believe it's the underside of the toilet tank that has a date stamp on it. And it was sometime in the 50s. There was one from the toilet in the back unit, and there was one from the sink in the front unit, both from the 50s. They're original. They're still there. They're broken, but they're still there. So if you want to see them, come on by. But I haven't changed that. So I've tried to play by the rules. I've tried to do it right. If I could say so, I think some of the reasons that, I don't want to go dark, but some of the reasons why I was denied were other than technical. They had to deal with personal and political. And I really hope that we can stay away from that tonight because it doesn't have any place in good government. And I'm hoping that you can see the facts and not think about and not consider those other things that aren't relevant. So I don't know if that covers everything, but
Yeah, you clarified some other things I was going to ask, and before I let them go, I just want to be careful and talk to John for a second. He seemed to be proffering some conditions, and I think it would be very interesting to, if he wants to proffer those specifically for us to entertain, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think you can accept those proffers, and if that's something that the council would like to, I would include it in the motion to accept the proffers, and we can we can go through and specify what they are, just so it's clear on the record. But yes, and I've been writing that down just in case you guys were interested. And Mark can correct me if we get to that point. I can read off what I've written, and obviously Mark can correct me if I'm wrong or if I missed any.
And you are correct. Yes, I am proffering and offering and proposing and suggesting those conditions. I'm ready to sign, whatever you want. I don't care. I'm not going to do any of those things. They don't mean anything to me.
Steve, done? Deb, do you have anything? Anna?
Not right now.
Guess that puts it on me. I forgot how good you are at being a lawyer until just now. And you know I have a problem with this because I almost bought that house.
I didn't know that.
I did. Where we looked at it actually for a clinic back before you bought it, and it wasn't a duplex. And so I have a problem with, and I know Mr. Cotton had the house before, and he did have some workers staying in there, and he did build an illegal little back room there. And it's just, it was never listed as a duplex. And, you know, I've been in the house, so I know it's not a duplex. So I have a real problem with this. And I know you're willing to say, I won't do this, I won't do that. It's, to me, it is what it is. So, I don't know, Jennifer, do you want to have a closing statement before we talk, or?
I don't have anything else to add at this time.
Does anybody have anything for Jennifer? Okay, well, counsel, John?
I would just say I'm not sure if the applicant closed,
No, I
but
didn't
he has
know.
the right to close too before we go to council discussion.
thought it was closed.
I did leave out one thing, and that was that Sharice, you know, Sharice is telling the truth. If she went through there and she said she didn't think it was a duplex, that she said what she saw is what she saw, but that's not what is there. And when we had the hearing in January of 2017, one of the witnesses that testified against me was her former husband, Buddy Pinder, who lived in the house since he was a little boy. I don't know exactly how old, but he was very young. Buddy told me earlier, and he testified under oath at that hearing, that Mr. Cotton had built the unit on the back for his employees, and he stayed in the front. Mr. Cotton was a drilling contractor, and he installed poles for the electric co-op and the telephone company. His main place of residence and business was in Key West, and he would come here on assignments and stay for who knows how long, and he stayed in the front, and his employee or ees stayed in the back. And so that is the only actual firsthand knowledge I have. And Buddy testified to that fact, the fact that there were workers in the back and owner in the front, and that's how it was used. Now, there have definitely been some modifications over the years, well before my time. When we had to put in the sewage, to connect to the sewage, we discovered that there was a cesspit in the middle of the living room. And the reason why was because they had enclosed a patio in the back, and that squared off the back side of the building. If you look in some of the pictures that I showed you that are in the main thing, I don't think they're in the little mini packet that I gave you. These are pictures, one's from the roof and one's from the eave. There are two buildings there that were joined together. This is not one that was split. There's a building in the back, and if you look at those pictures, you can see the different roof lines. And then the other picture I showed that's in your material is looking up where the two soffits or fascias are joined together. And there's a 4-foot wide space between them with ventilation holes in there. So there's, I don't know if it's in there. Let me just take a quick look. Oh, yeah, it's here. The original property record card, the green card, if you're familiar with these, it's in your little mini packet there. There's a photograph of the front of the building from 1965. And if you look on the second page, you'll see the property appraiser's diagram. And it's kind of hard to see, but I have a yellow circle around there. And you can see the front building, you can see the gap, and then you can see where the red arrow is pointing, that's the second building. That's the little unit in the back that you mentioned that the employees used to work in. And the L-shaped open space is where the patio is or was. And if you look at the next a property record card, which has got a number 4 on it, and it's got some old digital type letters and numbers on there, you can see that it shows 2 buildings as well. And I circled the second smaller one in yellow. They're joined together, and they look like one building from the air, and that's why the aerial photograph shows one rectangle for the 2 buildings under one roof. So they both have kitchens, they both look old, they both have bathrooms, they're both old. The pipes are cast iron and barely functional. They desperately need to be fixed. So whether or not it's a duplex is whether or not you want it to be. And the code can take it either way. And I think I've demonstrated enough to show that it has been used that way. Oh, I forgot to tell you this part. When I purchased the building, it was still owned by the Cotton family. Mr. Cotton's granddaughter still lives here in the village, and she's married to a prominent former insurance agent here. I don't want to get them involved in this, so I'm not going to tell you their names. But you may know them, and I've talked to them many times. They used to live in that house when their children were little. Their children are adults now. And I had asked them if it had the same features, the kitchens, the bathrooms, and they told me yes. And so I don't know if it was one family living in there or 2. I didn't get to that. But as far as the physical improvements to the interior of the building, as best I can tell, they're the same today as they were when the Cotton family owned it. And that's the end of my story.
Okay. Anybody have any further questions for Mark before I ask Jennifer if she would like to add anything? And you stand by what your report says, correct?
Based on the request that was presented to me at the time, there was, in my opinion, no new information for me to change the previous council's decision. For me to change a council decision, there needs to be substantial new evidence, and I didn't have any.
Okay. Council, discussion? Anna, do you have anything to ask now? Come on, guys. Thank you. Well, Steve?
So the topic for consideration is whether there has been any new evidence brought to light in order to overturn this. I'm not saying it right, but
to change the decision.
a denial here would be denying what?
Well, it would be denying the reconsideration request.
Okay. And if we approve it?
It would be approving it, which would approve 2 dwelling units on the property.
Okay. All right.
And then if you want, I can go through if there's interest on the council, I can go through the proffers that, at least as I wrote them down.
I would like to hear them.
So as I wrote them down, it was, the applicant had proffered that it would not be eligible for, and that neither of the dwelling units would be eligible to serve as a TDR. There would be no vacation rentals on the property. There would be no additional square footage added to the building or on the property. There would not be a second floor. And then later stated that the applicant stated he would, if approved, would get a second electric meter, and then also would be willing to pay any additional EDUs as may be required based upon an approval.
And is that in perpetuity or just for as long as he owns it?
Well, that would be part of the approval. It would be in perpetuity. I mean, it would be part of the dwelling unit determination, and those would be the conditions as proffered, and if they were accepted by the council. Yeah. Did I get those right, Mark?
Yes, that's correct. I agree with all of that.
Deb, anything?
And that would carry forward with any future owner, those that you just mentioned?
Yes.
And that's enforceable?
Yeah, we would, yes.
It's a stupid question, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, and we would record it so that it's there in the chain of title as well.
Okay.
Anna, ball's back in your court.
Well, to me, it seems like this is an old building. I don't ever remember it being a duplex, but it seems to me like there was a building and somebody maybe took an old porch and turned it into a living quarters at some point in time is what I'm gathering. never was it done legally, I would say. Is that correct?
That is not correct. Let me go a little sideways. In the provisions of our code that address an exemption to BPAS, which is where the three elements are that I've discussed with you, it refers to legally established dwelling unit. In the portion of the code that deals with nonconformities, it says lawfully existing. Legally established is not a defined term, but lawfully existing is. And I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure John's going to look it up quickly, but my recollection in summary is that if it was at one time lawful, but the law has changed, then it's lawfully existing. And to use the common word, it's grandfathered. In the initial application that I filed, the village staff determined that even though I didn't have a permit, it could have been legally built at the time it was constructed. And therefore, it met that requirement of that code. And to me, that is legally existing. The village has known that I've been operating as a duplex for more than 10 years. They've never stopped me. They've never sent me a notice to say no. I don't know if that's consent or approval, but if they had a problem with it, they should have said something about it. Don Horton isn't here, but Don Horton testified as my expert witness at the original hearing, and he testified that it was a legal duplex and that there were no code violations existing. That videotape exists if you wanted to go and look at it. I may have paraphrased it a little bit, but that's why he recused himself tonight.
If you want the definition of lawfully existing, I can read
No.
it. Okay.
No. My point was that I feel like it was probably a porch, and at some point it was enclosed, and that's when he started using it for his employees or whatever, however this came to be.
Well, the original little square building that you see was not a porch. It has 4 concrete walls. The larger extension of that was a porch or a patio, it says in the old property record card, and it has wooden outer walls. So that was definitely done later. You might know from your experiences as a surveyor and a little bit from living in the Keys that back in those days, whether or not you needed a permit was a very different circumstance than it is today. And the standards for getting things and the codes were very different. So if you ask me, Mark, can't you show a permit for that? With respect, I would respond to say, show me that the law required it, because we don't know. We just don't know. So what I'm looking at as a member of the community, as a neighbor to Sharice, and as a brother to my brother Barry, is what is the effect on the community and the neighborhood? It's been this way as a building for decades.
It's looked the same for decades.
It's looked the same, and I'm willing to change that for the better. But if there was going to be some kind of problem, crowding or pollution or some disruption based upon the way that it's been operating, it seems to me that that would have come to the surface by now. And I'm sure as council members, you're protective of the community and the citizens in the neighborhoods, and that's something of interest to you. But the fact that it's gone for this way and this long and nothing has happened, I think is evidence of what it's likely to be like in the future. So we have a lot of technicalities and there's a lot of things that are unknown. What we do know is what's on the ground. So
to piggyback on what everybody is saying here, if we were to restrict it and put in there covenants that it has to remain residential, it cannot increase in square footage, you must do everything else that was required or that you proffered. Thoughts?
Don't look at me.
It's not directly related to that, but these two old property cards both show, this one is really hard to read, but
Yeah.
this one definitely shows 2 buildings.
Right.
Not,
Well, it
not
shows 2 things, but.
2 things. You're right. You're
Correct.
right. But that's where this kind of implies that they were attached at some point of time, and who knows when.
If I could interrupt, the codes that are shown on there show FLA. That's the property appraiser's designation for floor living area, enclosed space, not the other one on the outside. The old one was a patio. So those were living spaces at the time those cards were made.
As for a discussion of what you just proposed, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to go either way on this. And if we have someone that is sincere in what he's proffering and it's going to beautify the property, his property value is going to go up, he may or may not rent the other unit, it's not going to be to vacationers. I think I could accept that.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion?
John has something.
John, go ahead, John.
Can I just ask,
Please.
because there was one additional that Councilwoman Richards had mentioned, which was that it would remain residential. I just want to make sure that that would be included in the
It's zoned R1. I don't think I can do anything else legally, but I'm fine to agree with that.
Okay.
I just don't want it coming back for a zoning change at some point later on, you know. Let's
Let me assure you that if I make it out of here alive tonight, you may never see me here again.
Are you sure about
Wait,
that?
is that a bribe? Is that officially a bribe?
That is a bribe.
Remains residential, same square footage, everything else that he proffered.
Yeah, it remains residential. Neither of the two dwelling units would be able to serve as a TDR, no vacation rentals, no additional square footage, no second floor, would obtain a second electric meter, and would pay any additional EDUs as may be required.
Never coming back in perpetuity.
In perpetuity.
And the wastewater and the EDU.
Yeah, he said that.
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want. So are you offering that as a motion, what John just said, or not?
Sure.
So it would be a motion to approve with the conditions as I just read.
Everything that we listed.
And I'll second
In
that.
perpetuity.
Yes.
And I'll second that.
Okay, Stephanie, will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Anna Richards.
Yes.
Councilmember Deb Gillis.
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Friedman.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Gonna say no.
Motion passes 3-1.
Thank you all, including Vice Mayor. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, Jennifer.
No, he's
Appreciate it.
eavesdropping at the door. He's eavesdropping at the door. I did too.
He snuck
All
out.
over the place. I took a walk. All right. That's the last item. Is there any other motions?
There's one.
Excuse me?
There's one.
What's that motion?
A motion to
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Now have a second. We are adjourned.